All right. Okay. I'm gonna just start streaming. Just FYI. Okay.
No worries.
1 minute away.
Okay. Have you got a subject yet?
And hey, event is starting. Okay. So actually, I have a question for you. So if you were to do 6 of the same tangs, which ones would you go for? I know how much you love tangs, but assuming that you all over one of them, which one?
I would probably go with yellows.
Yellows? Yeah.
Yeah, they're the easiest to have. It's not just that they're boisterous, so they're less fragile than I find they're less fragile than the other tanks.
That's true.
So that's why I'd go for those ones.
Yeah. Christopher, NATO, Royal Reefer, what's going on, guys? Brian Curry, welcome. TMG, you guys jumped on fast. So there's 2 in the lobby. Hey guys, how you doing? We got Nick on the line so far. USMC Reefer, hey. Nick and I were just talking about how most people don't do a shoal of tanks. Hey, Chris's Fisher. They'll do 7 different tanks instead of 7 of the same. So we're just talking, if we were to only have one tang, what would it be? So, question for you guys out there: if you guys could only have one tang, but say you got 6 or 7 of them, which one would you pick? Mr. Aaron's Aquarium, welcome. A little bit of Reef, welcome.
Let me load up the YouTube so I can see the text as well.
Okay, sounds good. Make sure you mute it.
Yeah.
Yeah, notification gang. Boop, boop. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a powder blue yet, but I think I'd like to for a tang. Nick has a secret love for tang that he won't admit, and he just got sent one, so we were joking about that and him adding a bunch of tangs to the tank. Yellow tang's a good one, because they'll actually be beneficial in geology. Mute YouTube. There we go. Excellent. Pelfrey, a quick one. Welcome for your few 6 shark tanks. That would be awesome. One of the local fish, not really local, but in Vancouver, which is a couple hours from me, I used to pop in there once in a while, and they had a big, cool shark tank. Chevron tang. Ooh, those are nice, actually. I don't see too many of those. So what's going on? We got Aaron's Aquarium and Oral in the chat. Welcome, guys.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Excellent, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Little bit of Reef. I want a blue tang. Yeah, I kind of want a powder blue, but I have a hippo tank, so I don't think I can get them both in the same tank. If all your fish have ick, that's not a good sign there, tanks and updates. Those guys are stressed out in there. Blue tanks, that's the only one I've ever had. Jayakuli, hi, welcome. Almost got a chevron. Chevrons are really pretty, actually. They'd be good ones.
Wait, isn't TMG? My gosh, how many fish does TMG have in his tank?
That's a good question, TMG. What do you got in there, buddy? Pelfrey said he sent you an email.
I got it, Pelfrey, okay. And they're in Australia. Pelfrey, I really do. So, a little bit of background. I have the Red Sea tank, and I saw someone had this really cool air, these little canisters that you put where the filter socks were. Mm-hmm. So you can put carbon or media. Mm. So Pelfrey, I asked a question on another channel, and Pelfrey sent me an email. So thanks, Pelfrey. But they're coming from Australia. So
so I think I've seen those actually. It's like an acrylic tube that fits in the filter sock hole, and you can just put whatever you want in it.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, you have to let me know how you like it. How's your tank?
Yeah. It's doing well, recovering nicely, settling in nicely. I think I'll lose. I lost some heads of torch, mm-hmm. and my Montipora has some weird red algae on it, but everything else is fine.
Do you know what took out your torch heads?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's the salinity swing, but you know what? My tank. Now that I'm thinking about it, with the ATO failing. And not enough water getting pumped to the display tank. All my dosing and filtration happens in the sump. So if very little bit of water is getting to the display, that means probably wasn't getting any dosing, probably wasn't getting filtered. So
gotcha. Oh yeah, that's unfortunate.
It could have been a bunch of things. Yeah. So But for the most part, everything looks good. I'm happy. If I only lose those two pieces, those are, you know, the Montipora red Monty cap is a fast growing coral, so it'll recover in no time.
No, exactly. That's good. Michael, it looks like a new scape's in the work over there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. And I'm admiring your lovely rock towers.
Do you like it?
I do, actually. It looks really good.
This is upside down.
I figured it might be for coral placement, but so you're going to have big pedestal towers?
Yeah, two big plates. They're going to be connected.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the main rock feature.
Nice.
When it's flipped over.
Are you setting up a new tank, or is that to adapt? Is that added? You're adding that to the wife?
I'm not telling you. Stuff's going on. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I saw the video about the sump. What you said about the sump.
The wife's getting a makeover.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The sump's done. The sump's had its makeover. It's a lot more efficient now.
Nice.
So yeah, it is. I'm nearly there. Nearly done.
All right.
Almost done.
So the wife got a little plastic surgery, eh?
There we go.
She's got a little plastic surgery.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Excellent.
Nearly done. Look at state in there. Covered in cement.
What's up, Michael?
Sup, Rico?
I will see you, and I'm going to put my big toe in your butt when you come over here to Chicago.
So much love.
I got word. I heard a little birdie talking.
I don't know what you're on about.
Me neither. I'm missing out.
I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. I'm just teasing.
I don't know what you're on about at all.
Rico, I do have to say your tank was looking pretty sexy in that high-def footage.
Hey, dude, I was honestly shocked that he was able to catch my tank the way it actually is in person, and how, you know, different it looks versus me using my phone and trying to show you guys my system. It was awesome. I probably already watched it like 15, 20 times.
I've watched a couple of times too. Yeah, the cell phone footage doesn't do it justice in comparison. Yeah.
No.
So Rico, are you gonna get a camera then?
I am not talking to you. You cost me money every time you. No, I don't know. Maybe one day. Oh, maybe you can teach me some photography or something. You and Reef Dudes.
We'll help you out. Dr. Welsh, welcome, buddy. 5180. Leah France, welcome. Yeah, we'll get you set up.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, it's fun to bust out the big camera and get those really detailed shots.
Yeah, the tank was looking. I mean, Rico, the last time you and I spoke on the phone, I mean, and you were showing me like cell phone footage. I was amazed at some of the colonies up close, but that video that Than posted, that was a whole different ball game.
I told you. I mean, it's hard to say what you know, like. I mean, from what I see and what you guys, because even when I'm looking on the, doing the computer thing, doing hangouts and trying to show like it looks nothing. Like it looks like garbage to me.
Yeah, it doesn't do it justice at all.
No, not at all. So I'm glad. Now I'm really glad that he did come and he's actually to get what my tank is out there. So
beautiful, man. Beautiful.
It worked. It definitely worked. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Devin, I'm a little late. I didn't realize it was Wednesday. I thought it was Thursday. But so as soon as I seen that, I shut down and told everybody to get over here.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, Sean, on yours, make sure you mute your YouTube.
Whoa.
There we go. Yeah, if you guys jump on the live stream, just make sure you mute your YouTube first so we don't get the double feedback going on. Hey, Michael, did that other link work better? Okay.
Yeah. I was wondering what happened with it.
Sounds better now.
Mic check. There he is.
Okay, you're golden. No problem.
I want to know what Michael has going on. I'm waiting for videos to see what his.
I'm trying to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Rico, I know what he's doing. I can tell you right now if you want.
One second.
I'll do a spoiler for you, Rico, and tell you.
You can do a spoiler?
Doing. Yeah, I'll tell you everything that he's doing because he talks to me every day.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm sure he won't mind.
Are we gonna have like Mayweather and whatchamacallit fight?
All right.
I'll just tell you everything that he's doing, and then he won't have any videos to make for the next 3 months.
I need to kill you.
Be done for.
You ever seen those fighting films where somebody punches somebody in the throat?
Yeah, right.
So, on his video when he had that Band-Aid on his nose, it kind of looked like he took a ride in Billy's van.
What's that?
Oh, he said about your last video when you had a Band-Aid across your nose.
What's Billy's van?
Billy Pipe's van. That's a joke. Everybody talks about Billy Pipe's van. Yeah.
I don't get the joke.
He puts people in the back of the van, but he really doesn't. It's just because he's so big. He's like 6'7", 300 something pounds, and he's always coming in the live stream in a van. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I've been in the wars this week. This week has been a fun week for me. Just literally everything that could happen to my body this week happened. You know, it feels like I've been run over by a truck.
Oh no!
Wow.
How's the shoulder?
Shoulder's killing. To be honest,
how did the injection go?
I had the injection yesterday, and
cortisone.
Huh? Yeah.
Cortisone. Don't get too many of those.
This is my third one now, and basically what they've said to me now is they're not doing it. They wasn't going to do this injection. They said they wasn't going to do this one, but the waiting time for me to go to a specialist, it was like 8 weeks. And normally what I do is I don't go to the doctors ever.
Me neither.
If I go to the doctors or hospital, then I need to go. You know what I mean? Yep. I leave my shoulder until the death. I literally leave it until as long as I can leave it, and I've left it that long. So when she said another 8 weeks, I was like, I can't wait another 8 weeks. I've left it as long as I could now. So I've still been referred. So we're probably going to be looking at an operation.
Don't feel bad. Both of mine's been operated on. I've already had both of my shoulders redone and bones taken out because I was really big into powerlifting and weightlifting, and I grinded the whole ball on top of your shoulder. I grinded that to Do
you know what? I swear to God, I know, and this is no flipping like Rico. But every single thing that you say that you've done or you're doing, we like the same people in the wrong countries. Honestly,
in the wrong countries.
Seriously, we lead the exact same lives.
I was even thinking we almost resemble each other too, man. Like, what's up, man?
I need to get a baseball cap.
You guys got the same hairdo.
Hey, Michael was like, don't go.
I'm not doing anything this weekend. So if anybody thinks I'm doing a video or anything this weekend, not doing anything this weekend, because basically what I am going to be doing is I'm going to be a week in front of you guys. So everything that you see on YouTube is going to be a week delayed. So that gives me a chance to, to get my stuff in order, get all my stuff and everything just right. You know what I mean? So all of the stuff is happening this week, and everything that needs to be done is happening this week. So next week you guys will see what's going on.
Making us wait.
It'll be worth it though. Well, what I've got envisioned, because literally I'm just going with this now, and I'm envisioning ways to do things and all that lot. And like I said, this time I'm actually cementing rocks, and I've never done that before. Normally everything's just like jigsaw placed. Yeah. But this time I'm actually building structures. So I've got an idea of what I want, and I think it'll work out well. And nice. All of the tweaks that I needed to do, I'm trying to be careful with what I say, but all of the tweaks that I needed to do should now be done, and everything should be efficient. So much so that, you know, every stupid little niggly issue that I've ever had should be out the window now. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But that's
We'll
the
find
plan. But as you know, all good plans fail in the end.
Yeah.
Guess we'll find out. So, quick thing, Brian was asking for update on Ozone. So, interesting thing on that. The Ozone was working. It's still working very well. I've been slowly turning it down, so I'm trying to find the just enough method. And I was watching my ORP, and every day my ORP got a little bit higher. So, like, that day was like 320, then it was up to 330, then that day it's up to like 340. And then I got all my new corals, and I added probably a full stick of aquascaping putty, and my ORP just tanked. Now it's way down here again. So that's kind of interesting little side note on that. But how much of an effect?
Well, that's going to be because milliput strips the oxygen out of your system, doesn't it?
Oh, it strips it out? Ah.
Oh yeah, milliput strips oxygen out of your tank.
Oh yeah, you have to be really careful with that, Dev.
Oh yeah,
use too much at once.
Oh, I put a lot in. Like, look at the drop off. It's like just tanked.
Yeah, that'll be why.
Yep.
I'm gonna switch phones.
All right, let me just.
Yeah, so that's probably why, because it strips a lot of oxygen to what's the word, to cure.
Ah, good to know. Guess I better turn that bubbling on 24/7 for the next couple days.
Yeah,
need to get some oxygen.
I've seen people crash the tanks by using milliput too much in one go.
I didn't know this. This is good information. Well, I use probably about 80% of a stick to get those freaking colonies to stay in place. So. A couple of them just kept falling. Like that big purple acro just kept teetering over onto the sand. So I just kept.
You know what you need?
What?
This is what you need. I can't see my screen.
I actually ended up using that for the Blue Matrix one, but I still had like a massive wad of that putty on the top for the purple acro.
Gorilla Glue, literally, I do not ever use epoxy anymore. Never use epoxy. It does my head in. Gorilla Glue, especially the gel one. This stuff, you can even like. I did a video where I placed my my green Montipora, and I even glued it underwater. You know, just literally put the tube in.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, if you do glue it underwater, then you kiss that tube goodbye, because as soon as you get a little bit of water back siphoning into the tube, it just turns it all into rubber.
Yep.
But, you know, Gorilla Glue for me is the only way to go, because they're quite big bottles as well. Well, obviously, I'm in the UK, so I don't know what it's like for you guys, but you're talking 15 grams. So that's quite a lot of glue in comparison to if you buy like a fish branded super glue. It's all the same stuff in the end of the day.
I actually use the same one. I have tubes of those all over my house. I use it constantly. Actually, I can see one right beside my desk even. So yeah, the Gorilla Glue gel is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's what I use for fragging.
I'm trying to figure out, does anybody use the phone as well as the chat on the same thing, on the same screen? Because when I don't know how to mute the audio from the live stream, because I can't read the chat. I want to read the chat, but I've got I've got my screen split.
Yeah. So
I've got you guys on the bottom and the chat on the Reef update, the live stream on the top, but I can't see the chat. Oh, done it. All right, done it. Started it. There's a button there that's just for the chat. I've done it. Is that there?
Yeah, the stuff they're asking in the chat, the stuff I use was called D&D Aquascaping Putty. That's the one that I normally tend to use, but
D&D, some good stuff.
Yeah.
Rico.
Yeah.
Rico, see my girlfriend's phone, it focuses in on stuff. Yeah. Hold up. See?
Oh, really? No.
It actually focuses in instead of my phone. I don't know why my phone doesn't do it.
Your
That's
internet
crazy,
connection is
because
too
my
bad
phone
to show
won't.
it.
Yeah, it's
My phone won't focus in on nothing if it's in camera mode, like while you're on Hangouts.
Yeah, I don't think Hangouts deals with autofocus. It probably just picks something in the middle and sticks there.
But I could definitely tell for sure, even though you're like focusing in, but it's still real grainy. That's like what I see when I'm trying to show you guys something.
Yeah. This is the essay. Oh, wait.
This thing that I've got.
What is it?
Oh, let me do some top.
Do you know what it's
I can
called?
show Rico some of my stuff.
It looks like a DIY reactor or some funky thing with there's a pump in it, like a filter.
It's a tank.
The lid opens.
It's a. Oh, I'm gonna drop this. I'm gonna drop it.
Don't drop it.
Nice chin catch.
I was waiting for.
Hey, Rico.
It's an aquaponics tank.
Ah.
So you can,
So fish waste and plant. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so you can
Oh,
grow
a nano tank, right? You set up a nano tank?
Yeah. What? You see that then? I'll give that away. Yeah, I've got a little
From IKEA.
got a coral frag tank over there.
So what's all going in there?
In where this one?
Yeah.
Probably a betta fish. It's going to be freshwater, obviously.
Yeah.
Aquaponics is something that is a science. That's
Michael, you know what you should get? You should get like little inverts, like little shrimps and stuff like that.
Well, the problem is, I don't know, because what I want to do with it is I actually want to grow something of use. There's no like food substances or anything other than mangroves that you can grow in saltwater, you know, out of water. So what I'm going to probably do with this is just make it into a freshwater betta system.
I keep hearing freshwater beer system.
Huh?
I keep hearing beer system.
Betta system.
Feeder.
Yeah, betta.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's cool.
That is cool.
So I might grow myself some flipping hot chilies.
Nice.
pH control is in hydroponics. You have to keep the pH at like 5.5 to grow things. It's crazy.
Well, that should be not too hard to do.
Just get a little.
It's not hard.
I mean, you got to carbon dose it, but
Just get yourself a little apex for your little container.
I've not even got an apex for the wife, so flipping, I don't think that little thing's gonna get one.
That little tub. Oh, that'd be great.
Why don't you have an apex? That's kind of
Just there's reasons that are political, and it's more political than anything. The reasons why, because you know what I'm like with the UK industry when it comes to shops and stuff, yeah. And one of the company that represents Apex, I don't like, so I won't use any of their products.
Would you use maybe
the
GHL or another one that kind of?
Yeah, the thing for me, the GHL ProFlux 4 is sexy as hell. It is a proper sexy unit.
Yes,
so and there's a lot more in the body as well. You know what I mean? But when it comes to the software side, the Apex kicks its ass. So it's one of those really. But I would have one, but I can think of better places to put my money. You know what I mean? If GHL are watching, or if Apex are watching over in the States, not the UK representatives, and you'd like to send me one, just send it over to Aaron's Aquarium.
Good luck, sir. Good luck.
But no, yeah, it's just one of those for me. The reason why I don't have an Apex is just I'm not going to put any money in the pockets of the representatives in this country, and I've never spoken to Apex in the States, so
I have to ask:
the
are they the same representative as Purple Pond?
Any what? Sorry.
I said, are they the same people that represent Purple Pond?
No, Purple Pond represent themselves.
All right, just checking.
No. To be honest, there's loads of companies in this country I just don't get on with.
Sure. That's great.
At the end of the day, I've managed to get this far without ever having any sponsorship or having anything to do with the trade. So, you know, I don't mind dealing with the trade, and I don't mind thinking, but I'm not bowing down to them. I'm not changing the way that I do things because of the trade. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you telling me you will not bend the knee?
Wait,
Hey, I'm king of the north.
Michael, so you don't see the Apex representatives at any of the aquarium shows you guys have, because it doesn't matter how
No, we don't have any.
It doesn't matter
I'll tell you
how
what,
small.
I'll stop you right there. I'll stop you right there. What aquarium shows?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They don't really have that over there. Oh,
I forgot. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, there's a lack.
The reason I said that is because no matter how small the show is here, just a few hundred people, Apex sends a representative at these shows. It doesn't matter how local it is. So
Really, eh?
Yeah.
yeah,
We
they're
don't have many
always
shows
they're
over
always
there,
at
do
a
we?
show.
The problem is for me is I've got nothing against Apex themselves. You know, I've got nothing against that company. It's their representatives in this country. Basically, we don't have manufacturers in this country. We have distributors, which are basically big shops. You know, all they do is they buy in bulk loads of product and sell it to the shops in this country, but they're not manufacturers, so it's not really their product, if you know what I mean. You know, they're just making money from it. And the representatives of Apex in this country, obviously they're not Apex, they're just selling the Apex stuff. They've locked down that deal to sell that stuff. I don't like them, so I'm obviously not going to deal with them, and they're my only. They're sort of like my midpoint between.
So they're
Apex,
like your only option.
You know what I mean?
So, Michael, is there other people you know who feel this way about them, or is it just
oh yeah. Whether it's from hobbyist to trade level, yeah, definitely. But at the end of the day, we're such a small country with such a small amount of distributors that one distributor may have a monopoly on a few decent products, and if you don't like or you don't get on with one distributor, then you lose out on many different products. So
maybe you just need to become a distributor.
Yeah, hold on. When I've got that couple of million in my back pocket, I'll go, yeah, let's do it.
I know,
We make good money, but not that kind of money, trucking.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I've just spent $10.99 on some flipping stone fix for the thingy, and that's just broke the bank. Well, that's it.
Does that stuff
Well,
work well?
you know what though?
The stone fix is like the plastic that you mold and melt, right?
What's he doing?
That's quite good, that, you know. It's quite good. Very small amounts. And I've probably not even used a quarter of a tub of that yet. And I've done quite a lot of rock. Quite good.
Nice.
Hey, are you there still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hilfrey said to let you know he sent you an email.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna
I
check
didn't mean to change the subject, but just had to get that out real quick. All right.
You're good? Yeah, so I haven't used the stone fix, but it looks kind of cool. It's those little pellets that you boil and melt and kind of glob together, and they're...
I seen that at, is it New York? No, Florida.
Yeah.
That was my very first time seeing it, and it was amazing. And I think if I ever upgrade and go almost 1,000-gallon domain display, I will be using a lot of that stuff.
Nice.
Is that like the cement?
Yeah, but it's like a plastic almost that gets
It's
soft
like-
and pliable, then it'll harden. But you can peel it off and boil it and reuse it if you want, which is kind of cool.
Oh, you could tell that stuff out again. Like, there's a name for it. Before they even came out with that aquascape stuff, people were using that. There's a name for it. It's called like weld or something. Weld mold. It's a plastic
Yeah,
mold.
something like that. Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna do something real quick, everybody. You see on this aqua, the bubbles in the middle there?
Yep.
Yep.
Have you ever got something like that before?
Nope.
No, that's a red planet.
I'm trying to figure out what that is.
No, they say, take me back over there.
Hold on. There we go.
It does look like a red planet.
Yeah, that's a red planet, but what is that actual bubble
This is a
bubbles?
red
Is that
planet.
like,
This is a red planet. That's
yeah,
something.
that is not a frag of a red planet, because that damn sure looks like one.
Oh no, it's been
I would bet $1 million on that and lose then.
This is a red planet right here.
Yeah.
This is it. It's a beast. It's like a foot by.
That is huge.
It encrusted like 8 inches of this rock.
Yeah,
look,
look at just in that area right there, and go back. That's definitely a frag. That's got it. Yeah. Isabella, that's definitely another frag of Red Planet, man.
No. It's a red table, but it's not a red planet. It got blue. You can't tell because it's daylight in my tank. At night, it's blue. Everything's blue underneath all this.
It's like it's on its own.
It's like a blue coral with red polyps. It's actually pretty. Pretty dope.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll be over to get a frag of that.
Yep, me too.
I'll grow it out.
Look how it's going. Look. It's just tabling out. The branches are so thin from each other. It's like I can't even frag it. At least my red planet, like, dude.
Yours is the branchiest red planet I've ever seen, though. Most of them are more tabling. That one's like...
Yeah.
Dude, these are bigger than my finger. I don't understand. I don't get it.
They're
it's
huge.
Supposed to table. It's just growing straight up. I think it's because of all the flow I got or something. I don't know.
I don't know. It's cool, though.
I have no idea.
It's looking good.
Yep.
Not really. I kind of wanted it to table out. It started to, like, right over here.
You're just trying to make me jealous. It looks nice.
It has a lot to do, flow and stuff can alter the way corals will grow as well. Things that normally won't table will table, just depending on where they're placed and how the flow is hitting them.
Yeah.
The light as well will dictate it, because sometimes, they'll table out and base out more if they've got, intense light. And if the light's a little bit weaker, they'll grow up. A bit like with zoas, when you see zoas with long stalks.
Yeah, they stretch.
Reaching for the light.
Actually, I guess...
but dude, these are 300 par. Look at them. They're all stretching, but I think they're stretching because there's no room for them to grow. So they're just trying to...
Could be.
Is it 300 there, or is it 300 higher?
It's 280 here. Right here, 280.
That's not bad then, really, is it?
No, I think there's...
Whoa.
How many hours? How many hours are your lights on?
I mean, I'm sure if it was a frag, it would be like all sunken in or something.
Well, maybe it is the opposite. Maybe it's not going to table out. It's going to grow up skinny like that because it's getting too much par. So it's like trying to make itself skinnier so it doesn't intake more light.
Look, you don't see no green in it. This is like 400 par. I think I got frags. Hold on. Look at this one. You can see all the green in it. Hold on. Let it focus. See all the green in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a less par. It's less par brings out the green. Otherwise, it's just all red. It's all red.
That's why I try to take, for real, when it comes to these acros. I always want 100 plus on the sand. So I'm roughly around 130, 35 par at the sand bed. That's 27 inches deep. And the lights are 16 inches off of the water surface. So that's a long way to penetrate and hit 130 par at the bottom of a deep tank. But up top, the way it works out is roughly, even though it's 130 there, it's roughly about 350, maybe almost hitting 4. But between 250 and 350. So I think that's the best for everything across the board.
So Rico, question on that though: how many hours a day do you keep your lights on?
My T5s and my T5s are on 11 hours a day. Full spectrum's only on 6 hours, I believe, a day, and my blues are LEDs are on 12 hours a day.
Okay.
Here's something for you. Have you heard of a guy called? Have you heard of or seen a guy called Ralph's Reef? He's not on YouTube. He's on Facebook, but he has a large peninsula tank which is floating.
Nice.
It's about, I think it's a 7 foot by 2.5 foot tank or something. Beautiful. If you go on Facebook and search Ralph's Reef, you'll see it. It's like,
is it in wall?
What?
Is it in the wall?
The back end of it's in the wall, and then the rest of it sticks out, and it's got like wires at the end that's holding the end.
Oh,
up.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. It's on Google. It's on Facebook. It's all over the place. It's beautiful. He was on a live stream the other day. So like obviously I've seen this tank and I didn't know whose it was. I've seen it on pop up on Google Images and all that lot, and I realized it was his. So literally, I jumped on the live stream and I asked every question I could.
Nice.
And he said that he's got some really big, say like stylophora and things like that, but the branches are thick. His acros and everything, his branches are thick. They're not skinny little wispy things pointing up, they're thick. And he said that when he was running LED, he was getting growth, but there was like, thin, long, reaching growth. But when he changed back to T5s, they really started thickening up, getting big, chunky things on him. He uses a calcium reactor as well. And he literally just calcium reactor.
Fit on a frag plug. That's how thick the branches are. They won't even fit on a frag plug. And I'm trying to make them thinner. I want them to be thinner, Some of these branches are thicker than my finger.
There's nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're unhappy with it, just stick it in a poly box and send it over to Aaron's Aquarium.
Hey, Isabella, you're close by.
Too bad we don't live over here. You lived over here.
I live over here. I live in Brooklyn, bro.
Just find a way to sneak a few to the border. I'll meet you there.
I asked first.
As well.
Right, guys. I'm going to shoot off anyway because it's nearly midnight here, so I'm going to go because I've got work in the morning.
Oh no! So what else, real quick, before you go? What else? You said he run a calcium reactor, but did you ask him his lighting schedule and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, lighting schedule. He was run. Oh no, I didn't ask him the schedule, but I did ask him his bulbs. And he's running. I think it was like the blue plus and coral plus bulbs. He literally, he had, I think it was the 34 watt bulbs, but he probably had 10, 15 tubes above the tank.
Yeah.
Literally, there was every single square inch of the surface of the tank was covered by a T5.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was it's absolutely beautiful. And then I was because you don't really get a gist of photos what it actually is. And it turns out it's on the 4th floor of an apartment block.
Nice.
So, and this is a big tank. This tank looks like it's bigger than mine.
I think it says 700 gallons, and one of the things I read, if it's the same one.
Is that what it is?
If it's the right one,
it looks big anyway. And so he's had to support it via the ceiling rather than the floor because the floor wouldn't take it. So he had to support it via the ceiling. So I think it's got RSJs running across his ceiling, and then he's fitted it into that.
Wow.
And then I was wondering where his filtration was because I thought it'd be like a basement thing, that he's run through the wall. But he's got like what looks like an IKEA cabinet to the side of it. So it sort of like makes an L. So you've got the tank going like that. And then you've got the cabinet going around, and it's so minimalist. It's like in this gloss white cabinet with, the stand and everything for the tank is gloss white. It's absolutely stunning. And then you just pop the lid off, and all inside was all of his filtration, big skimmer, calcium reactor, all of that lot, and C5, and that was it, basically. In a nutshell. And honestly, if you get a chance, check it out. Ralph's Reef. He's on Facebook.
You got a YouTube channel.
All right, so
No.
If
he's not got a YouTube channel.
All right, so I just dropped the photo. Nick sent it over, so I'm just putting it behind me. If you guys are on the YouTube, that is a pretty awesome tank. I've seen pictures of this one before.
Here's his video if you guys want it. I don't know if I can post it.
But yeah, that tank is like next level. He's got about flipping 7, 8, or 9 yellow tangs in there, purple tang, and just the way that they're shoaling together and the way that the corals, because it's 3 years old or something, so the corals are big. You know what I mean? It's like he's just left it.
Can you toss me a ranch real quick, Devin?
There we go. Put something in the chat.
It actually shows I do have a ranch, but it won't let me post the link.
Oh, really? Yeah, you already have one, so.
Oh, well.
Welsh, she's just posted a link.
Wow.
Looks
Damn.
amazing, doesn't it? That's unbelievable.
The ceiling is supporting that? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
Nice,
amazed.
that, isn't it?
I'm amazed that the ceiling is actually holding that
I
up.
thought you said the ceiling. Wait, the ceiling is supporting it only, not. I thought it was helping, but geez.
No, there's literally nothing below it. There's nothing below it.
Everything.
You can go underneath it. The kids can run around underneath it. It's fully supported by the ceiling.
Yo, okay, that's gonna be. I'm gonna copy that.
But even look at the guy beside it too, right? It just goes to show scale of how big it is. Like that's huge.
I am going to copy that.
That's cool that it's floating like that.
Well, if you actually look at the way he's got it, he probably has 6x6s in the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Because
you
it looks like a whole column, the whole ceiling. He's probably got 6x6s in the ceiling.
You'll have some steel girders, some RSJs in the ceiling, and then underneath the tank, you know, because obviously you can see how thick the base is. There'll be obviously be some sort of support underneath there as well. But the way that it's done, and on the picture, like I can't really see, but behind Dev, I think, on these like cover photo, you can just see the cabinet on the other side.
Nice.
Yeah, you can just see the cabinet on the other side, the little white cabinet. It's cool, really cool.
Chris's Fish Room, thank you, buddy. Definitely appreciated. Sees the super chat. Thank you, Chris.
I say, Chris, I'd say LEDs and T5 combo.
I would do both. If you have a canopy on top of your tank, I would 100% do both because LEDs give you the color pop, T5s will give you better growth. So I think the king would be having both on top of the same tank. If on my tank, I only did LED just because I like the look. For aesthetic-wise, I don't have a canopy, I don't have a top, so I wanted those tiny little pendant fixtures on it. So that was mainly an aesthetic choice, but I'm still getting awesome growth from it. But I think T5s and LED would give you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I'll probably will never go back to just LEDs by themselves. I will definitely just seeing what the tank has done with me adding the T5 to my tank. It looks awesome. I mean, and the pink lemonade, I mean, it just brought out even more beautiful, vibrant colors. It needed it. So obviously just the LEDs, yeah, my tank was growing, thriving, looking good, but it really upped the game of this total system by adding them.
I think even if you had LEDs in the middle, even if you had a single T5 strip on each side, it would provide all that extra fill light that would help.
Yep. That's exactly how I have it running, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When I do what I'm doing, I'm starting off LED only, because I'm getting some new LEDs, so I've got to show how those LEDs perform. But GHL? I definitely,
GHL.
No, no, I'm getting the focus. I'm getting the focus one. The Focustronic Focus one.
Okay.
Nice light. But yeah, but for me, yeah, definitely the T5 hybrids are like the best of everything that you can expect. You know, you've got the best of both worlds.
Yep.
You know, each light has its own individual flaws, and they both have their own individual pluses. You know what I mean? So if you can combine both of them and knock the flaws out of each, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, if you have a canopy, I'd 100% do that special blend. I think you'd have amazing color and growth.
Well, I'll tell you, to be honest, Dev, a friend of mine runs the same lights as yours because you've got the Ecotech ones, haven't you?
Yep.
And he's got just single T5 tube and run them either side, you know, so front and back, and with a black reflector. And he's the way that he's angled the reflector, the light isn't, you know, proper offensive to your eyes. And he's sort of like got the reflector so that they're angling inwards. And it doesn't look bad at all aesthetically. And he's got his over a purple pond tank, and it doesn't look offensive. You know what I mean? It looks quite good.
I've considered that actually, adding a strip, but I don't know if it would look good or not. I might.
He's got it on a ballast with just a tube front and back with a black reflector, and it looks cool. Honestly, it literally does look cool.
You should snap a photo for me next time you're around.
Yeah, we'll do. I think I'm going around during the week.
Pelfrey has been experimenting with just hanging. I think he got a nice mount made where he just hung some T5, along with his Kessels. So I was seriously looking into getting.
Pelfrey's got one of my favorite lights. He's got the AP 700, hasn't he?
No, he took it off.
That's the one I want.
Did he take it off?
He was only testing it. Yeah, he was testing it.
I just saw a video and it had the AP 700 over it, and I think he had two. Was it 360s side by at the side of it or something?
Nice.
Because I thought,
wow, I had that light and it was good, but the software was. I had it for a year, and I had to sell it because the software was just crappy.
Yeah.
Hey, would you know what I've just got? I've just got the AE200, the Kello version, and the software is wicked. The software is good. The light is great. It's a good light. I've not featured.
You've been pushing these Kellos, but we can't get them here, man.
Yeah. I don't think we can get them.
Okay, so
we probably could.
Unless he wants to be the US distributor for Kello, because I can't find them, not even on eBay.
He's gone.
Oh,
okay. So
Hey Seymour,
Chris's fish room.
Seymour, I'll hook you up.
all right, easy.
Okay.
Listen,
we'll take over America with the Kellos.
You said it on a live stream, man. You promised. You can't go back now.
Yeah, I'll message Fendi and we'll get it.
All right.
Set up.
All right.
He's getting on.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Okay. So Chris's fish room, it's 6 feet wide, 6 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 30 inches deep. So in your tank, if it was me
using Chinese black boxes,
yeah, it depends which LEDs you're using, but I would probably go for 2, possibly 3 LEDs in the center, and I'd probably do a double T5 bulb on each side. That's what I would personally do if I was gonna had a canopy in that dimension.
I would go with 6 feet. I definitely, no matter what, will go with, because I've done it with the Ocean Revised with 3 originally. But that 4th one made a huge difference. Definitely go with 4. Seriously, it made that much of a difference as far as
that extra spreading.
That extra spread and some of that overlapping really helped. And didn't really, look crazy looking.
Yep.
So the overlapping and the spread and all that definitely. But I ran the 3 for the longest, and then when I put that 4th one on, I was like, oh, I needed this from the beginning. It sounds crazy, but it really does. I mean, and that's 16 off the water surface. Maybe at 2 feet, if you're going to have that high, the lights up that high canopy, you probably would be able to be all right with 3 of them, because the higher you go, the wider that spread's going to get. Yeah. And
So here's a question for you.
Pelfrey's doing his thing.
Here's a question for you. So what are we doing? What do we think is going to happen then now? Are we going to be supplementing LEDs with T5s? Or are we going to supplement T5s with LEDs?
We're going to supplement it with Metal Halides.
Nah,
I mean,
too much heat
I'll
power.
put it like this: if I ever do this dream tank, what I really want to do is run the LEDs, run T5s, and a conveyor belt to run a 400-watt metal halide that slowly travels from one end of the tank to the other one and back throughout the day.
I
Like a light rail.
T5s,
Yeah, light rail.
if you want full coverage on an LED, on LEDs, I think you'll need so many units. It's actually more economical to just put some T5 bulbs there. Because if you have like a 6-foot tank and you want like full coverage where you have a SPS dominant tank, to get full coverage where your stuff isn't dying, when it starts to get bigger, you'll need 4 or 5 units on a 6-foot tank, while, you could just supplement, add some T5s, 2 T5s on each side, 4 T5s, and probably get away with, lesser LED units.
That's the question. You're right, Seymour. That's the question. I mean, with Rico's, I'd actually go, you'd be better with 400 watt halides, and you'd find that would be more economical because those boys can spread.
Halides is not.
Well, halides is not really economical because of the simple fact is the power bill. I mean, I mean, dude, I probably knocked off a little over 100 hours just on the electric bill.
Yeah, but Rico, what you're forgetting though is like you look at the Ecotech Radiant, it's gone from 130 watts on the Gen 1 to 230 watts on the Gen 4, and the coverage is really at those levels is really like 2.5 foot square. You go to a 400 watt halides with the new digital ballasts, the draw in the socket, the really new up to date digital ballasts.
Yeah, I got them.
Because the draw on the electric is so much less than it used to be.
The chiller and everything else I ran with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of heat those guys pump off.
My friend just swapped out. My friend just swapped out 9 Radiant G4s for 2 400 watts, and his canopy is cooler.
What's he doing with all those G4s?
It's not an option.
I'm gonna put like this in the wintertime here. My heater didn't even really need to kick on because my tank's above my bedroom. That was like having a heated floor. I mean, you didn't have to worry about cold. I mean, it was warm.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm gonna knock off now.
Yeah.
Catch you later, Dev.
No worries, ReefDudes. Take it easy, buddy.
Okay.
All right, no worries, mate. Catch you later, Rico.
All right, Ruth Jones.
All right. Andrew,
I'm just
gonna catch
Metal
up on
halides are not an option for me at all because of heat issues.
For me,
that bulb cooks. At the end of the day, you can cook a whole breakfast on it.
Yeah, it's for me to spend all that money on it and then a big electric bill plus needing a chiller and noisy chiller. I don't know. That's kind of takes a lot away from me. So just going back on the chat.
I don't know because I've seen it. I've seen the guy swap out his 9 Radians and that was warm. And
I need a chiller right now with
watts,
LEDs.
You know?
I use a chiller now with LEDs. Can you imagine if if I'm using metal halides? Plus, aesthetics is really a thing, and having the tank, the living room with the LED pucks that are nice and well designed and are thin. I think probably
it looks pretty. It's sleek. It's nice.
Yeah, the aesthetics. Apartment, it being in the living room. I think aesthetics is probably aesthetics and the heat for me.
I think it depends on the halide you're looking at. And I'd agree. If you got a closed off helmet, then that's going to make a difference as well.
If I could afford a Giesman though, like those.
That's what I was going to say. The Giesman Othellos are beautiful.
Yeah.
You're just sitting up there crapping on my metal halides.
Each to their own.
Because we all know I run metal halides.
The metal halides too is having a very good quality reflector. That makes a big difference.
Yeah,
big
huge.
dome, real
the
high
parabolics and stuff.
Across, reflectors, man. That right there makes a big difference when you're running metal halides, more than what people think probably, but
okay,
that makes a huge difference.
So in the chat, I'm just going back in the chat before all these questions scroll away. Andrew John was asking, what do you recommend for a beginner? I was thinking a Kessel 160 for a 40 breeder. Yeah, Kessel would be a solid choice. If you want something a little bit cheaper, there's also the AI Prime HD. And if you want to be a little fancier, XR15 or one of the other AIs would be a pretty good choice. That's if you want to go with the LED route.
He can use 2 160 for the breeder.
Well,
because he can use 2 160s on the 40 breeder.
Yeah, they're good.
There's a guy, Nathan Williard. I hope I pronounce his name right. He has a Red Sea 250, which is I think it's like 50 something gallons. And he just sold his tank, but he had an awesome tank. His tank is on YouTube. He had an awesome tank. Grew SPS, grew everything with 2 Kessel 160s. So
for a beginner, I would just get a Chinese black box and just be cheap.
Well, it depends on your budget too. And I think the other thing is if you want it to, like if you just have a softy tank or you want something more juicy, it's adjustable. You can turn up and down and for future use. So it depends. What else do we have? There's a couple of questions. Do any of you guys know anything about a Hawaiian Golden Dorf Moray eel? I've not had one. I've seen, I think there was a snowflake that someone had in their tank, and it was a Red Sea open top tank, and didn't seem to bother the fish. Seemed happy with it, but I haven't had one personally.
There is one at my local fish store right now.
Yeah? They're cool looking.
Very, very expensive. I wouldn't get them unless you have that amount of money.
Yeah, are they pricey?
He's got a price for like 800.
Whew. Yeah, that's up there.
I've seen them online for like 600.
Yep.
But eels are big time escape artists. They will crawl up a power head. They'll crawl out of your tank.
Good
come
to
home
know.
and you got to pick it up off the floor.
Good to know.
I'm reading on Blue Zoo Aquatics where it says a bite from this eel can cause a serious bacterial infection. Oh my god!
Yeah, because they got those teeth, right?
Yeah.
Like lizards.
Yep.
And they're pretty much blind, so if
If
you're sitting there messing around, feeding your fish, and you're touching on that cube or whatever,
don't feed
you
them
turn around,
hot dogs.
stick your hand in your tank, you're gonna get probably bit.
Don't feed them hot dogs and try putting your fingers in the tank.
I like Narcos' statement. You know, Narcos' statement when he said, "Unless you got that kind of money, then I wouldn't buy one."
Yeah.
But how are you going to buy one unless you got that money, right? it's like...
Yeah. Okay, so there's another question.
It cracks me up.
Yeah. I know. So there's another question from Rossi's Reef. What should I do if my calcium's above 500? It's not really a big panic if your calcium's a bit high, but it is on the high end. I would just make sure you don't dose for a while and let it creep its way back down to 420 to 450 type of range. But I don't think there's any big issue of having high calcium. You just, as with anything, just let it slowly drop.
Calcium is 500. What is your alkalinity?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
And if alkalinity is normal, what is your magnesium? Yeah.
If alkalinity is low, just dose the alkalinity, and it will bring down the calcium, and vice versa. That's probably one of the times you are not going to equal dose.
Yep.
Or you could do some water changes.
But
then just let it, don't dose nothing.
yeah, his elk's 10. Yeah, I would just hold off for a little bit and let it drop on its own a bit. Magnesium's 1350, so that's right on the mark. Yep, just don't dose for a week or two or whatever it takes and let it slowly drop down.
Yep.
As with anything, don't do anything quick and rash. You don't want it to happen slowly so nothing gets shocked.
So, whose elk is 10? Rossi Reef?
Yep. 450 calcium, elk of 10. That's not terrible, though.
There's nothing wrong with that. People, 10. I say anything over 12 is playing with fire when it comes to alkalinity, but it has been done.
7 to 11 is kind of the general standard happy range. Just the biggest thing, keep it stable. Don't let it jump up and down. Just keep it stable and they'll be happy.
And the easiest number to keep is usually 9, 8.5, 9. So that's a good number to stay in between.
No, I'm with you. 8.5 has been my magic number.
Do you guys believe in lower nitrates, lower alk, higher nitrates, higher alk?
I can care less about that. You guys know me.
I
let it do what it's gonna do.
Yeah. I don't worry about it too much. If it's like crazy high, maybe, but I don't think too low, like ultra low. Unless that's kind of your goal, I avoid it. Like I like to have, mine are probably somewhere around the 15, 20 for nitrate, and phosphates are, what are they? Probably around 0.3 to 0.8 range. Alkalinity is 8.5. I keep it at. So it's good to have some of those nutrients for your corals.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. One of the best advice Rico ever gave me on. Let it be. It will drop on its own. There you go.
There it is.
That's a good one, Doctor.
Yep. It's true,
well,
though.
You don't want to get into chasing numbers. You know, you try to fix something, then you overshoot, undershoot. You're chasing numbers. You know, if it's a little high, let it just naturally fall down. It's going to drop on its own naturally. You know, stop chasing numbers. Really.
Yep. Oh, sorry. So point 0.03 to 0.08, I believe it is.
Yes.
No, not 0.3. Yeah. Yeah. You never want to have none. If you have 0 nutrients, as in phosphate and nitrates, then that's going to cause issues with your coral. They still need some. Too much will cause algae, but too little will hurt your corals. So you got to find that balance. So you never want to have 0. You always want to have something in there.
You got 0, your corals will look like you know what.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 0.03 to 0.08. Sorry, not 0.3. Just to correct that. Yeah, chasing numbers is trouble. Like, if you're chasing numbers, your tank is not going to be stable. All your stuff's going to be up and down, up and down, up and down, because they're constantly changing. And that's what's going to make your corals angry, not going to be happy. Corals just like stability. They don't care if it's high, they don't care if it's low. They just want it to be stable. That's the biggest thing. Just be consistent. So what should you do about 0.015 ppm? Is that, I'm assuming that's phosphate. If you do want it to be a bit lower, that's a little on the high end. I would just use, if you don't have a refugium, I would look at adding some Chaeto to your system. Do you know what your nitrates are? I would probably just look at using a small sump perfuge or Chaeto reactor, something like that, to keep them in check. If you have an algae issue. I mean, if you don't have any algae issue, then don't worry about it.
Depends what the nitrates are, though, because it might be low carbon.
Could be. So, Rossi, what's the nitrates at? It's pretty much all the stuff in this hobby is almost like a balancing act between all the different nutrients. Nitrates are 0. Okay, so if you just have phosphates, if you want the chemical route, you can use GFO, but just use very small amounts. Too much could be trouble, so make sure
if you're using it through our reactor, do not run it through a reactor fast.
Like a trickle.
Trickle it.
55 gallon full of Chaeto. Oh, so you do have a ton of Chaeto. Yeah, I'm surprised you still have that, actually, to be honest, with all that Chaeto. What's the cost of the LEDs that Rico uses, the Ocean Revives?
They're anywhere from $180 to $200.
Okay, not bad at all.
How's your detritus settling in your 55-gallon Rossi? Is there like detritus pockets in there somewhere?
Could just need a good vacuuming too to help clear out some of that. Yeah.
Or leave it like me, and you let it keep breaking down and feed the corals.
Just free food, right?
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Just get in there and stir it up. You're like, I'm not cleaning you. Go feed some stuff. You got to make your tank work for you.
That's the name of the game. Make the tank work for you, not you work for the tank.
Yep. Oh, well, that's the thing, though. As it ages, they just become less and less work, which is brilliant.
That's it. They learn to balance that stuff. The ecosystem that you put in the box, when it really starts to take off and thrive and learn how to adapt to a closed loop system, basically, it'll do wonders for you. But most people don't know when to leave well enough alone, and they always want to tinker and stick their hands in and do this and do that and all the above. And are you learning or are you working? You know, are you watching the tank to see what exactly is going on? Are you doing the proper testing? Measuring, all the above, you know, or are you working as if it's a 9 to 5? And majority of people you will see on, you know, as you grow in the hobby, are constantly working on their tank versus leaving it alone. think about it. I was a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
When did I have time to work on this tank?
Yep, not much. That's probably why your tank's so nice.
Not much.
It's because you left it alone for so
you
long.
know, think about it. You know, I'm gone 2 weeks. I'm home for 2 days. I'm trying to spend time with the kids, the wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I might, clean the glass or whatever, here and there. But that was it. My hands wasn't always in the tank. You know, it's just learning to adapt and thrive on its own.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Apex, let me know if something's off, which never happened,
Mm-hmm.
Just change out the calcium and alkalinity and DI resin.
Yep. Nope.
Auto top off.
Doratic at Reef was just saying too. Exactly. If there's no issues, don't worry about it, which I agree. If your tank's happy where it's at, then no point chasing it or just let it be. You said you vacuumed out a bunch of detritus, so that probably will help a bit, but if there's no issues otherwise, then you should be golden. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
I think we can have that actually tattooed on our forehead.
Yeah.
And everybody will majority of people will still try to fix something.
I think it's the human nature to try and find a way to fix it. They want to control everything.
What's Sean doing? Is he curing rock or what?
I don't think you can control Mother Nature. That's the funny part about it. Even though she's in a box, some of her is in a box. But yeah.
Yeah, Sean is stacking up rock. Nice little Picasso trigger in there. 5 gallons of detritus. That's a good chunk. Obviously hasn't been vacuumed in a while.
Yeah. How was your pH on that in that system? It probably rose some after sucking all that out.
Really, eh? That make that big of a jump?
I mean, I don't know how big, but I'm sure it did make some of a difference when it came to that. 5 gallons of detritus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge.
That's a lot of detritus.
Yep.
Well, actually, there is a guy that used to have a tank here in Wisconsin, and he had basically Chaeto on the top of a basically a plastic bin that was like probably hold 50-60 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
He had like Chaeto across the top, and on the bottom he literally had like silt. Yep. like 2 inches of silt that was like growing phytoplankton.
Nice.
Just straight detritus, whatever was down there. Like he never cleaned it for like 2 years and a half. And it was like 2.5 inches of just straight detritus and silt that like grew like phytoplankton. And he had undetectable phosphate nitrates. He had very low phosphates. Like, I don't know if it was because he dosed phytoplankton that they just started growing in there, and that like that was helping his system. But it was sick, man.
Crazy.
Like,
no, over time, usually depending on the system, it will start doing its own phytoplankton and stuff like that.
It's a bonus. I was talking to a buddy the other day. He wanted to try setting up like an auto doser type of thing with phytoplankton.
Phytoplankton.
So we might try that. So we have our culture phytoplankton, which will dose the tank, but then you also dose tank water back into the phytoplankton along with fertilizer every little once in a while to see if we can keep it going continuously or
not. That's what Asa has going on and setting up.
Has or is going to?
No, he does have it set up. I don't know if he's got it operational yet, 100%. Or not, but that's what he's been. Yeah, exactly. Just that. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, I'll have to check that out later. So Rossi's Reef, pH 8.2, and does anyone here use Reef Brights? Rico, did you just get one of those?
Yeah. I got it on right over here. I'm waiting on Nick to send the other thing so I can put it on and make it look real nice and do a review on them.
Nice.
Actually pretty great. I think Nick said he's actually had to turn some of his down because that was too much.
Yeah, I bleached some of my corals with it.
Oh no.
I didn't because it was the first time I've used the Reef Brights, and like every newbie hobbyist,
Well,
I didn't realize how strong they were.
Came from? Do you know where those sparks came from? Do you know if they came from a T5 or Metal Halide tank?
No, they were LEDs, LED tanks.
They were under LEDs?
Yeah, they were under AIs, Hydra 52s.
Which Reef Bright lights do you guys have?
The XHO,
XHOs.
LEDs, yeah.
It's like curved one with a bunch of strips in it?
Yeah, that's the one I got. You can see it on my picture.
Yeah, I thought it was. I was looking at your picture and looking at the website, and I thought it looked pretty similar.
Yeah. So yeah, they're quite strong.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Oh, they look pretty good. Yikes, Eradicate. Newbie accident with the metal halide. Had it too close to the tank. I actually melted the top trim of the tank. Probably too close, but I couldn't hang it. It was an emergency fix. Oh, yikes. Yeah, those babies pack out a lot of heat. The tank's probably fine. It's probably just an aesthetic thing for that trim on top, but still, yikes.
Hey, whoever was asking, I'm kind of rescaping because I stole a bunch of rock for a tank I'm setting up upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of leveling everything out.
Is that your tank, Sean?
You nearly squished your urchin, Sean.
Squish what?
Your urchin. You got an urchin under the rock.
Where?
When you were moving the rock, it fell off and ran underneath. I was like, you were fixing to put the... You know when you first put it on and it fell forward? It's because you were bouncing it on the urchin's head.
Taking him for a roller coaster ride, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yep. So anything else exciting going on with you guys?
I think my fish found a couple pods that have been hiding for months.
Yeah?
Rico, I sent out the email again.
They're going crazy.
Oh, the email to me?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'm ready to go eat. Been on here with you folios all day.
Yep. Good stuff, good stuff.
I think you got on the tank soon upstairs. It's a quickie.
Yeah? Nice.
Yeah, it's about that one.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were at, but do you want to know what's in my tank water?
Some fish.
What's in your tank water?
Yeah.
Some fish and coral. What else you got in there?
Do you want this, Nick? Do you want me to do this right there and let you know?
Oh, you're gonna do it on the on your sump, right? Oh no, you're gonna do a pH test on your sump for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna do an ICP test.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Do the whole meal deal.
Just for everybody that want to know if I have toilet bowl water or actual tank water.
I'm shooting for tank water.
I
hope.
I think you could actually grow SPS in your toilet bowl water anyway, Rico.
It's that little salt, man. It'd be fine.
If I had salt,
just put a Reef Bright above it.
I probably, right.
Walk in the washroom. There's like a little radion hanging over the toilet. You're just like, ugh. You look in the bathtub. There's coral in there too. A couple strips of T5s over top.
I hate, it's just, it gets to a point where it's like, oh, it's not hard. I hate saying it, oh, it's easy, because it ain't easy for some people to even grow some of the easiest SPS. But when you do it for so long, it's kind of like anything. It's like, okay, you want to, off to the next phase or something else, or looking for something else to do or change and see if you're going to get, a different response or something like that. But
okay, so here's a question in the chat. What's the highest elk you've ever had?
In my tank?
Yeah.
Probably like 13.
Yeah. I'm thinking 10 or 11, but 8.5's my new normal now.
I think Sanjay used to run his at about 12.
Yeah.
12 up to 13, I think.
That's up there.
Yeah.
So when you're running your elk that high, I mean, there's some benefits for pH, but isn't there also a lot more risk of potentially elk burning your corals? Or is that not that big of an issue?
I think it's more risk of I think there's more risk of if you sneeze wrong,
Fair.
you won't have any corals.
There you go.
You know,
similar.
It's all about how you doing it, and if you're doing it, bringing it up at a very slow rate, it's fine. And if you're bringing it down a very slow rate, it's all right. But when it is up there like that, and you're punching it, it's like putting your foot to the floor in your car on the gas pedal. You know, and those cylinders are moving, and you don't know, you know, it's a chance to take that, you know, you throw a rod, you know, at any given time. Look at it like that. And when you're up there like that, you're playing with a little bit of fire. I'll call it fire. You're waiting to get burnt. But if you're really stable when you get up there, and you're keeping things really, really stable, there are benefits from it. You're just not. I don't feel you really get the thicker branches and stuff when you get up that high. You get. It's more of a use. I feel like if you're in the coral fragging business or something, to really put the corals on steroids or something. You know what I mean?
Okay,
I don't think it's healthy.
Doradic Reef. I once had an issue with my 29 bow cube when elk got up to 23. I'm surprised anything was alive in there. See if it even was.
Yeah, I've heard people say all kinds of stuff that they've been really high. I haven't tried it. I don't think I really want to try it. I don't think I have a need to try that. 13 is, I'd say, definitely the highest I've been. I've ran it at 12. I ran it at 11. But ultimately, at the end of the day, 9 seems to be a very number.
Yeah, I don't know.
Between 9.2 and 10.2 is where I normally run the system. But things have been firing off and staying around 8.5, 8.6. It doesn't want to. I can dose. It will hover up around 9. And then slowly creep down right there.
Well, it's kind of a nice area, right? Because you have a bit of a buffer in either direction if something did happen, where it's not going to freak out the corals. So I think it's like 8.5 to 9. I think is a good place to be.
Yeah. I mean, I really want it to be about 9.2 or so, or around there. But for some reason, the system now is having a hard time. Staying up there. I'm gonna test. I did bump up the CO2, but here's the thing. You know, I don't think it would be so much of a problem once again if I had the great air exchange. Yes, you know, I'm using Tom's Aqualifter to pump and you know, doing the bubbling stuff and the protein skimmer sucking air. Tom's Aqualifter pumping sucking air. It's just still not enough air exchange in my system to really, you know, boost the pH because of how much CO2 I'm using and dumping back into my system with this calcium reactor. You know, people seen the Tidal Gardens video and packed. This thing is packed, you know, and they're not small. You know, and they're growing. And even though I'm using a big calcium reactor, I mean, I have no choice. If I want to keep this tank the way it is, I'm going to have to keep dropping the CO, you know, dropping the pH in the tank as well.
Yeah.
That's just all to it. You know, there's nothing I can do about it.
Well,
you know, I could maybe get an industrial air pump to sit outside and a bunch of lines from that and running a bunch of wooden air stones in the system. Maybe I can get, maybe it will. I don't know. But then you got winter time.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here's the question. Are you growing it to sell frags from your main display, or is that just for you?
No, I mean, I do frag and prune this stuff back, you know, but this is for me.
So you know, if it's just for you, though, like even lower pH, like it might slow the growth a bit, but who cares? It's just less work of fragging.
That's not true.
You don't think so?
This stuff still grows like wildfire. Some of these corals, it don't matter what you do to it, it grows like wildfire. I'm dead serious. I cut off a piece a couple months ago. Already got, I would say, I don't know, I would give it maybe 4 months, and already got over an inch of growth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of these corals really just
once they're happy, they do
that. So I gotta watch how many things I frag off in that system, because it hurts me to frag, because it causes, you know, the consumption rate to really go up, because they want to heal themselves.
Yeah.
People think go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say half my frags these days are from the tanks breaking off chunks as they swim by and hit corals.
Well, yeah, they do that too. You know, but people think, you know, big tanks are nice, but they are other problems that most people don't have to go through. You know, and that's one of them. You know, there's always going to be certain problems and things you're going to run into with keeping a reef. But once again, like I said, it's in the basement. If it was on the top floor where, you know, more air exchange doors and windows are constantly being open and exchanging that air, I don't think it would be such a problem. But I don't know. You know.
Do you know what the solution is, Rico?
Yeah, the solution is take my fluid line, stick it in a big cup, put a wooden air stone in that, super glue it down, you know, pop a hole at the bottom of the cup, hook up the line to that, and use that, the air to bubble that solution before it falls into my sump is the only thing I could think of to bring that pH back up.
That is right on the money for the biggest bang for your buck. for your fluid.
Just do softies.
Just get rid of all those sticks.
To me. If it was an all softy tank, you guys would be like, get out of here. Look at this dude.
We'd still talk to you, Rico. Come on.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you guys would talk to me. Yeah, you guys ain't making me a believer on that one.
Right. Rico, the Mushroom King.
Right.
The Xenia champion of the world.
Yeah, no, I'm good on that one, man.
Hey, Rico, it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
Nah, it ain't gonna happen, Sean. You can go ahead and do that in that 125 over there you got.
I'll do it. I'll let you know how it works out.
On a serious note, I bet you could use Xenia for nutrient export. If you do your giant tank, you could use your current tank as a sump.
I have Xenia in this tank.
Yeah.
Some people have already tried Xenia for export. It doesn't work.
No? It grows
it's
fast.
Gotta work because
it grows
as
fast.
soon as my nutrients will creep up or something like that, you'll know when they're creeping up. They tell on themselves. They'll start growing like crazy, climbing up the glass walls of the tank and all kinds of stuff. So I don't know about that.
It would have to suck up some nutrients to grow, from my understanding, anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's not as good as Chaeto, but I still think it would.
Oh,
that'd be funny. No.
That ain't gonna happen. The next tank is gonna be so huge, so fully packed. I want it on a magazine.
I want one of those floating tanks now.
I don't want the floating tank. I'd be afraid at any given point the wire or something's gonna let loose.
There's another way you can do it, Deb.
Can't
There's another way to do it. Yeah, because I'm gonna put one in the showroom, and what you do is you put the girders through like the wall, and then you brick the girders to the floor.
Yeah.
You
can do it that way.
Like that. Yeah.
It's
beautiful.
It is.
But that right there makes me want a peninsula. I really, really, really want my dream tank to be a peninsula style.
Peninsulas are nice.
Yes, I love peninsulas.
Just because you have so much, you can just think if I could take the front of my tank and have all that going on the back side of it and being able to do. Oh my God. That's what I really, 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 really.
360s are even better.
I don't know. I might have to call in Nick, the big guns, to reach out to some of his people to come here and build this.
All right. So Reef Builders is asking, what is your salinity? So Mr. Jake, I keep mine at 1.025, 1.026 ish.
Mr.
That
Jake.
one,
Mr. Jake.
That one is a trick question
Because he's
Yes.
looking for specific gravity.
That's not salinity. That's
He's
specific
asking-
gravity.
Oh,
Yeah.
35 PPT? Oh, he's still on this. Jake, are you still on this? 35 PPT. There, is that better?
Come on, Dev.
I should have known.
Yeah, he threw that out there, and you started talking. I'm like, he's about to rip him a new one.
I have 3
Are you sure yours is at 35 PPT, Dev?
I gotta go look. 34, 35,
Because
somewhere in there.
all salts are different. You know that, right?
Okay, I have 3 different refractometers, and they all have both scales on it. And yes, I use the one that Jake doesn't like, the 1.025 to 0.6, out of habit, and it's not going to change.
Yeah. But it doesn't really matter, right? As long as it's the.
I need to have Jake
Right,
come over and check out this tank. Let's see what his input would be.
You should. I don't know. It's fun.
Wait. So Jake recommends you take it in parts per thousand instead of specific gravity.
Yeah, if he wants to jump
That's
on,
how
I
I
dropped the link. But yeah, I think it was Michael's live stream a few weeks ago about
Yeah.
that. That's technically the proper way to do it.
Okay, all right. Because I have the same checker he does, and I always do specific gravity. So
Yeah.
you know, it's a one click change. So I he's saying it matters. All right, I guess I'll go back and watch that live stream where he's talking about it matters. I missed it.
Yeah, that was Michael's or Aaron's.
He's just going back to, bringing it back to the way it should be taught.
Yeah.
Fundamentals.
Which is fair.
Which is understandable. That's gonna not probably happen in our lifetime, but I get what he's saying.
I get your point, Jake. But on the flip side, I think that either way, you're still getting. I think your YouTube's on mute. That. But either way, it's getting you to the same point, and as long as you're consistent with it, like you could test it in anything you want, as long as it equates to 35, 34, 35, 1.025, 1.026. As long as it gets you to the same point.
Anybody here? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know, Deb. I don't think.
No
Jake
one's
knows.
tank
I
here.
don't think Jake knows what the hell he's talking about. I think he's. Hey,
no one's tank all the time.
Yep.
Nobody's tank what, Jake?
Nobody's tank is it's like that exactly stable temperature all the time, right?
Temperature?
Everybody's tank has a
No.
temperature swing.
No. Yes.
I have to look now.
No. And I do not. I'll be honest. For my big, blown out, dominant SPS reef, I don't like running the exact same temperature for one reason and one reason only. When that does swing, some of these corals are very finicky for whatever reason and will crap out. The more I've allowed it to fluctuate, just like Metal Halides, I've always had better results.
So you're absolutely right that corals that live in super stable temperatures react more negatively during a swing than corals who experience some kind of a swing. But I want to keep this about salinity. Everybody's tank, unless you have an NPS tank or a cold water tank, your temperature changes from morning to night. My temperature changes and so if you're using specific gravity in the morning and the evening, you're going to have wildly different results. And since we're talking about saltwater tanks, the first thing we should be discussing is saltwater concentration, is the concentration of salt, right? You walk up to somebody's tank, you ask them what their alkalinity is, what their calcium is, what their magnesium is, and all these other trace elements, but we don't talk about the most important factor for a saltwater tank, and that's salinity. And I'm not going to be like a salinity Nazi, but I'm just going to do my best to throw it out there that we collectively will do better when we start describing the actual salt value of our water versus the density.
So one last question. So you're saying?
Oh, who's got echo?
Is it me? So temperature. So parts per thousand is not affected by temperature, but specific gravity is.
The thing is, we don't have any direct way to measure salinity. The only way you can directly measure salinity is to take some water out of your tank, boil it off, you know, a known volume, and then measure how much salt is left over. So all the ways that we use to measure salinity are proxies. They're relative values, right? So they're specific gravity, refractive index, or conductivity, and those are not directly measuring salinity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, so as long as you're using, you know, a good refractometer that's calibrated for tropical temperatures and for seawater versus brine, which is salt water, and seawater are actually really different. So you have to know what equipment you're using. You know, it's really important. You can't just point and shoot and expect to have like the right reading. You know, we already know to calibrate. Right, we know to calibrate within the range.
At the
so we're getting better at it. Yeah, we're getting better at it. But you know, I think, you know, so many people that say they have a low temperature, right? It's going to give you an artificially dense reading, and you're going by specific gravity instead of salinity. You're going to think your calcium is low. So instead of just raising your salinity, you're going to add calcium, and then you're going to create all these problems of imbalances between your ions and your ratios versus just add more salt. So there's a lot of simple things we can do to make our tanks like a lot easier if we would start with the fundamentals of salinity and salt water. I didn't mean to take over your stream.
No, I did not consider salinity affecting calcium. So that's a good point. I didn't even consider that. So that's a very good point.
So the way to think of salinity, it's the average of everything. You add up your calcium, your magnesium, your alkalinity, all your traces, and what you end up is with salinity. That's what salinity is. It's an average of everything that's in the water.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense.
I want to know how does that apply for people that are using calcium reactors and things don't fluctuate when it comes to that, and things run and constantly being dosed, all your major minor trace elements and all that stuff, that same stuff that you know your salt is providing for your, you know, salinity, whatever. How is it possible for things not to really change, you know?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. A calcium reactor is actually an alkalinity pump. So it actually produces a lot more carbonate than calcium in parts per thousand. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, if your alkalinity drops by half, your salinity will fall by 0.02% or something, not 0.2% or 0.5% of the salinity value. You know, so that's really minute. But the difference between 33 and 35 parts per thousand, that's a lot.
Right.
That's 10 times more than like a small drop in alkalinity.
Right.
I mean, think about it. How many times you walk up to somebody's tank and you're like, oh my God, this is an awesome tank. What salinity do you run? What's your temperature?
Never.
We don't do that, right? We go all the way to left field and we talk about esoteric trace elements and don't really consider the most fundamental parameters. What were you guys talking about before? Sorry, I feel like I totally hijacked your live stream.
Dev was talking about refractometers and how to read them, I think.
I have 5 refractometers. They're all different. You know, so that should tell you something.
Jake, here's a question for you. I seen that you were at that clam farm in Palau, right?
Oh my God, that was the best place in the world.
All right. One question is, how long does it take clams to basically breed, or like basically breed and become to like 5 inches big?
So the biggest clams grow the fastest. So I think it takes about 2 years for like a crochet to get up to about 1.5 inches, you know, which is, or maybe even like 1 inch. That's considered like a marketable size. But like a Dorasa in 2 years will be like 3 inches long, so twice as much. And a Gygas clam, which they haven't done in a long time, I'm guessing it'll probably be 5 or 6 inches in 3 years.
Okay. How big does a clam have to be in order for it to reproduce?
Well, that's actually really cool. That question has a really cool answer, because they are protandrous hermaphrodites. So that means they are males before they're females. And so the clam will be able to produce sperm within just a few short years. So I'm thinking in like 3 to 5 years, it's mature male gonads. And then it's probably like another 7 to 10 years for female gonads. But that's just a real ballpark average for all the species, right? Because like the Gygas clams, they got to be a lot bigger to be a female.
Okay. Something else is, how many clams would I need in a system in order to get them to reproduce?
2.
2 is it?
Yeah.
So if I have 4, that means they're going to double reproduce?
Well, so the thing is, if you really want to breed clams, you can't trigger all of the clams to spawn. So I spawned clams while I was in Palau, like totally separate from the video.
That's cool.
It was really, really cool. But for example, I think we harvested 20 clams. They weren't from the reef. Okay. They were from like a cage on the reef. So they belonged to that farmer, but we went and got them and like manipulated them. But like say we got 20 clams and we started the stimulus. Maybe like, you know, 1 would go off and then a couple more would go off, and the males always go off, you know, right?
So we're not too different from clams.
Females took a lot longer.
Okay.
So it was like half an hour to an hour. There'd be like maybe 1 female or 2 females. So out of a group of 20, maybe half of them spawned, but then we only needed 1 female to produce like a lot of eggs. So 1 female, she would spurt just like a little bit, and it wasn't enough to make it worth the time. And then a couple more females would spawn more than that. And then there'd be 1 female, and it wasn't really size dependent, who would just like cloud the tank. And we kept having to switch her in different buckets to keep filling it up with game. When that was filled up, we put it in another thing with clean water, and it would just like mess it up.
Okay.
So it's a multi-dimensional answer. So a group of 5 to 10 would be probably the good number.
Okay, so 5 to 10. So how do you actually trigger this effect? Or how do you trigger them to spawn?
Don't do it. Don't do it, Jake. They're gonna be killing their clams if you put this out.
No. The first part is actually surprising. You actually piss off the clam. So when we harvested the clam from the cages, we put them on the canoe, and then we actually you want a sterile environment, so we just scraped the clam shell, close it up, and had like not an iron brush but a tough brush to like clean everything off. And then we left them out for like an hour and a half
in the sun.
I'm not even kidding.
Out of the water.
Yeah. So we had them on the boat, then we cleaned them. That was about an hour. And once they were all clean, we just left them out. We went and took lunch. We went and took lunch and then came back and then put them back in the water. The second part is kind of proprietary, but there's some hormones involved.
Okay.
But that first part is like, that's the first part. I can't tell you, that's kind of common knowledge. And then the second part is some hormones involved. Everybody's got their own little cocktail to get them going. I think it's some kind of steroid or testosterone. I don't know. I don't really know.
I seen something, a coral farmer doing something, but they actually like sacrificed a clam and like opened it. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So what you can do, if you don't have access to those hormones or you don't have a refrigerator to keep that cocktail or whatever it is that they use, you can sacrifice a clam, you cut it open, you go to the gonads, and then you basically mash up the gonads.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do that, maybe a blender or something.
Yeah, I don't know neither.
And then they put it in the water, and those hormones, because what starts the clam spawning is the first clam spawning. So when that sperm starts mixing around, then everybody gets the memo, and that's how it happens on the reef.
Okay.
It's crazy that you actually annoy them to get them in the mood. Like, that's weird.
Well, you can see in the clam book, there's actually a picture of Daniel Knopf and something, I think it was a hippopus or porcelanis, and it says right there on the caption that they left it out in the sun for like an hour and a half to heat up, and that was part of the imminent spawning process.
Yeah. That's crazy. So Johan's asking, would using a common clam as a filter be worth it for clarifying or cleaning your water?
I don't think so. I kind of sort of tried this on a fish tank, but I was keeping my tank too cold because they really don't like cold snaps. Clams do not like it cold. Oh yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a lot more work than it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so much easier ways. It'd be cool. It'd look cool. It could make like a really cool display.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think it'd be super effective.
So what is the perfect temperature
we actually
for
had a trend in.
What?
What is the perfect temperature for clams?
I don't know, but they definitely don't occur in subtropical locations. Like corals, you can find stony corals that grow in the low 70s, or 69 degrees is the cutoff. That's the point at which the ocean erodes the coral faster than it can grow. Just chemically, it cannot calcify fast enough at that temperature. But I don't know what the limit is for clams, but you do not find clams at subtropical locations.
So is it like 78, 80, 82? Just normal tank temperature is good, or?
Yeah, I mean that's good. That's fine. But like I probably wouldn't, run a reef with clams maybe below 75.
Okay.
Yeah, keep in mind most of the clams are in shallow water that warms up too. So yeah, they're used to a nice bathtub water.
So I probably want to keep like 80, keep it up.
Dude, I've seen clams chilling in like 89, 90 degrees in like a foot of water, like nothing.
Whoa.
So obviously, just like Rico's corals, that clam has experienced the fluctuation. It's used to it. But that's a really good point, Rico. Like, if you keep your tank hyper stable, when you do have a swing, your corals get much more pissed off than if you let them experience like a natural daily fluctuation.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason I do that is because we do use so much of these electronics, timers, whatever. And if something does happen and cause, if something was just stable and it never budged, and obviously you had that fluctuation, it's going to have a oh shit moment. Excuse my French, Devin.
There's definitely a misconception that the reefs are like super stable, pristine places.
Yes.
But I've been diving in water and you literally can hit a wall of different temperature and it'll be like cold. You have a wetsuit and you're like in 82 degrees and all of a sudden you're like 75 degrees and you see the fish swim through it like they don't, like nothing's happening. So the reef is actually a really dynamic place. The temperature changes daily with the tides, right? So when the tide's going out, you have this warm water coming off from the shallows. When the tide's coming in, you have this deeper water coming from offshore, and it cools it down. So, yeah, there's definitely reefs are not as stable as you think. Chemically, they are. Salinity-wise, they are. But temperature, that's one that fluctuates quite a bit.
So on the clams, Krieger's Reef is asking, pissing them off, meaning they thought their lives were in danger and they spawned for preservation purposes.
I think there's some theories that support that, and I think there's some documentation. That's why you sometimes have clams spawning like during like semi-tank crashes. Sometimes a clam will spawn and make it worse, and that's the belief that it's maybe thrown out its gonads just because it's last-ditch effort. But I don't know for sure. I don't know if there's like any research to support that. I think most of the clam farming is just like farmers' trial and error.
Yep.
He's probably like, hey, man, I might as well get one last one off.
There you go.
Might as well blast it out.
Well, guys,
when you gotta go,
the male clams are always ready to go. They're always
kind of like human nature, right? We're already ready to go, right?
That's trying to keep it PG.
Yes.
Family friendly here.
YouTubers, we're all the opinion leaders. If you've never heard that term, it sounds weird, but once you're used to it, it's fine. But as a group, we need to push ourselves to be, mastering the fundamentals of the saltwater aquariums, and that starts with salinity and that starts with temperature. No one here on this channel has a thermometer, a dedicated thermometer that they paid more than $10 for. Maybe,
yeah, who has the NIST certified thermometer?
I have one. Aquarium Supplies had a video where they recommended it.
What about the Rico controller?
I'm skeptical of everything, even a Renko. Like I know a Renko will be really precise, but it's not necessarily accurate. I'm just skeptical of all these things.
Do you have
I bought a validated one.
Is yours validated, Jake?
I bought 2 of them, and they were both different temperatures, like 4 degrees off.
Oh, that's a lot of confidence.
So, I don't know. I don't. And then both of them were different from what the Apex came out of the box. So what do you?
I bought 2 exact digital thermometers, right? And then plus the Apex, right? And I always got 3 different readings. I'm gonna be honest.
Yep.
So they're not really. I get exactly what Jake's talking about, and I'm on board with it. But here's the thing.
So I have two references. Mm-hmm. This is the digital reference for me. It's the infrared thermometer, because I feel like there's calculations here that are hard to screw up when you're just measuring infrared. Yep. So this is my digital reference, and then this is my analog reference. This is a big ass handmade German hydrometer with a big old thermometer on it, and this was calibrated by hand, not machine.
Nice.
So I got the analog reference and I got the digital reference.
Now, do they read the same?
Yeah, but I don't pull this one out very often because it's really big, and I have to put this in a bigger beaker. So yeah, periodically I'll take this, but this is proven pretty handy.
Yeah, I have one of those too, actually. And I'm curious to check it versus what my tank is.
So do you you feel the infrared one is? You obviously like it and trust it more than anything else, correct?
It's about how it measures temperature, because when you're measuring literally the infrared spectrum, this is what they use for satellites, right? When they measure sea surface temperature, they're using basically measurements of infrared energy coming off, and then they make the calculations to determine what temperature is. And it's the physics associated with that are a lot harder to mess up than the thermocouplers that are generally included with controllers and stuff. But I don't trust anything. I don't trust anything completely. That's why I have a reference. That's why I have a reference.
I paid $80
temperature monitor device, and then there's in Fahrenheit, and then there's also a temperature probe in my flow meter that's in Celsius. It's just like I don't trust anything anymore.
When I was originally calibrating my Apex, I think I had one of those big grade glass ones, a couple digital ones. I had like 6 different thermometers that I just averaged everything out to try and kind of get my baseline.
Yeah, but when I bought 2 validated thermometer from a lab, and they were like 6 degrees apart.
That's just weird.
That's terrible. That's just
That's not cool. Yeah.
Zero confidence in that.
So I sent those back. I got a third one, which was right in the middle of those 2. So I didn't want to bother with that. They're sitting here. I don't know what to do anymore.
And that's why I kind of just, I've always went off the rule of, obviously get a couple of them, whatever you feel, comfortable with, even though it might not be totally accurate. Pick a number, stick to it, and make sure it doesn't deviate from what you're saying with your tank. If your tank is thriving, it likes everything that's going on, stick to those numbers.
Observation is always your best.
Yes, I go with what my eyes tell me. My corals, I've said it. I know you're coming on here.
This is kind of fun.
Go ahead. All right, I know you're new on here, but I try to tell people all the time. My corals talk to me. I look at. I'm always observing the corals. The corals. People will come in and be like, "Man, that coral looks great." Well, to me, no, that coral doesn't look great. There's something wrong. There's a pest. There's something going on. It's not quite right. And I'm trying to get people to understand that. And yes, it does come with years of experience and how long do you actually pay attention to your tank versus controllers and everything else that's telling you something. Pay attention to your tank.
So I don't know what you guys were talking about before, but this is an awesome discussion territory. Salinity, temperature, using observation. And this is a really weird one, but I have 2 corals that literally tell me when a tank is too cold and when it's too hot. I have a long polyp leather, which has been now called a weeping willow leather. If the temperature gets below 77, his polyps do not come out.
Oh, that's handy.
Yeah, but I've also been growing that coral for 17 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just put it in a tank and learn in a year or 2. It's like over a long period of time. I notice, hey, the polyps are in. Okay, let me double check the temperature. I know it's too low.
Below 77, it won't come
out? No.
Huh. Because I keep my tank rate around 25, so that's about 77.
That's this one strain. One strain. I have other strains that are totally fine, but this one guy, he does not like it below 77.
Nice.
And then blastomusas generally come from deeper habitats or walls that will have upwelling water, which tends to be cooler. And I have a blastomusa that he's fine at 80 degrees. He's fine at 81 degrees. But like 81.5, he's tight. And then I'm not always looking at the numbers from the monitors and stuff, but I'm always looking at the corals, like Rico said. And so if I see my blastos closed up, then next step is look at the temperature. And sure enough, it will have hit 82 on a hot day or something.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's so true. That's usually the time you actually test, when you look and something looks off, or a coral isn't happy, or there's no polyps out. You're like, hey, what's up with the tank?
This is one of the reasons I don't have an Apex anymore. I use a dedicated monitor by Milwaukee, and I have it right next to the door, the entrance to my house. It's literally like the last thing I see when I walk into my house and when I leave my house. It kind of forces me to just keep an eye, temperature, pH, ORP.
How about fish? What about Anthias? Should I keep them in like cooler waters, warmer waters? What do you think? Like 77?
Either way, they'll occur deeper, they'll occur shallower. Just you probably have better luck keeping them a little bit cooler, because you raise the temperature, you raise their metabolism, you raise their needs for food, you raise how much shit get put in the tank. Pardon my French. So middle of the road is probably best, but if you're having trouble fattening it up, maybe drop the temperature just a tiny bit.
Okay. That right there actually makes a lot of sense too.
We talk about all these esoteric topics so much, but temperature drives everything. It drives how fast your corals calcify. It drives how fast algae grows. It drives how fast parasites will spread in your tank. So like I feel like discussions of virtually any kind of problem with an aquarium or success should begin with a discussion of the temperature and the salinity.
How hot's your tank? Yeah.
That's a very good point.
It is.
Because those are critical things that are missed.
Rico, if you're ever tired of fragging coral, just drop down the temperature. Slow down that metabolism.
I got tanks full of it.
Hey, say you're going on vacation, you want to make sure that your alkalinity and calcium don't drop and things happen slower while you're gone. Just turn down thermostat a couple notches.
Yep.
Well, and that's funny because the whole temperature, actually, Narcosis, the one I was asking about the fish, he was running his tank at 80, and I'm felt like you could cause yourself more problems running it up that high because of the metabolism, and you're just really making things move along a lot faster, which I feel 78, 77, 79 is my system fluctuates between those numbers there. Sometimes it goes up a little higher, but I think that's for any system that you're keeping in a box. Things can go left real fast. So, with the whole nutrients and how people feed, how people do a lot of things, I feel like, a little bit cooler side, 77, 78 is a good number for most these aquariums, as far as I'm concerned.
When I have a dedicated fish tank, I keep it hyposaline, about 20 parts per thousand, because they just don't need that salt. 75 degrees is going to be kind of max for the fish, feed them very lightly. So yeah, for a fish tank, definitely drop it. If you increase the temperature, you literally just have to feed them more. You have to do more water changes, and most of the fish actually, do better in slightly cooler temperature.
Yeah, well, my tank before I moved, I've always ran at like 78. And I always just try to stick around there.
That's a good middle of the road temperature, always.
That's
pretty much. As soon as I moved, one of my buddy, he's just like, I run at 82 all day long, and I went to his house, seen his tank, and I'm just over there like, oh, nice good painting you got, So I started running at 80 ever since I moved 5 months ago, and I had really, really good success, but probably a week ago I turned it back down to 78, and some things kind of look, not as good. Some things look better. Like I have a deep water acro that literally went from a small frag to just one polyp on the actual acro. Everything else is completely white except for that one polyp is purple. So I turned it down to 78. It pretty much stopped stripping, and now it's holding as just the one little piece. I'm kind of hoping it'll grow back, but I don't know. I might just turn it back up to 80 and just let it ride.
Hey, also, you know, we've already had this discussion about inaccuracies in measuring temperature. His 82 could be your 78.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You might be at the same exact temperature. You know, you don't know. So maybe we all should be carrying around our own thermometers. So it's like, this is
right.
Just use the same thermometer in each tank, then you know you're at least on par of whatever that random number is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just worked mine to Fahrenheit. 76.1 to 77.5 is what my 24.5 calculated to.
But next time I ask you what your salinity is, you're going to tell me your actual salinity, right?
34,
yeah,
1.036. Just waiting for it. I knew better too.
We're all going to do better when we have this average of everything, and we're talking about salinity. We're mastering salinity and not talking about RD.
Well, you know what? Repetition for you, since you've actually, you know, been talking about it, you know, on, you know, Aaron's Aquarium's live stream, now here, you know, the thing is repetition. You know, you might sound like a broken record, but the more you keep saying it and coming into the live streams and doing this, guess what? You will start seeing some of these changes. People you might meet at Reefapalooza or Magna, and then you're going to hit them with that, and you're going to start catching people maybe go to say, and then they stop, think about who you are, and going to say it the way it should be. You know, think about it that way. Think about it for real.
I'm not trying to come out as a know-it-all, but I'm like, saltwater tank, man. It's a saltwater tank, not a specific gravity tank.
I thought we were making beer. What?
Now we're making beer, right? I have a beer hydrometer. It only reads specific gravity.
See, mine have all read both, but you've almost sunk into my head. You might get lucky. I'll try and make a conscious effort to say 35. Instead of...
Hey, it's for your benefit, man. You know, I know what I do with my tank.
Yeah,
I like
Yeah.
that.
So,
Hey, Jake.
Yes, sir.
Jake, can I ask you a Reef Builders question? A
Yes,
little bit off topic, because I noticed on your tank you haven't got one of the best pieces of equipment running on there. It's devoid, and we've got a piece of kit I'd like to get to you so you can try it out.
Wait, what's happening now? Okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, you're breaking up, Nick.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a piece of kit on your tank that I noticed that you haven't got, and it's one of the greatest pieces of kit in the whole world.
On my nano or my big tank?
Yeah, on your nano. So I was thinking we could fix to send you one over to make your tank complete.
Is it a miniature top-off device?
No, it's called a random flow generator.
Random flow generator. Sure. Sounds like a joke, but sure.
No, it's not. It's actually not. It's Antonio. He invented these random flow generators, and he actually comes on my channel, and he's actually sold quite a few, and a lot of people.
Oh, okay, because back in the day, I came up with InstaFlow. You guys ever heard of InstaFlow?
InstaFlow.
Yeah.
Oh.
I
So just add water. Just add water flow in the bottle. And when you add water to it, and then when you pour it in your tank, then you have flow.
No. Actually, it's
nice.
Was the string and elastic bands involved?
There's a big straw where you saw the couch and blow.
Dude, I think there was a full-page ad in one of the magazines back in the day for InstaFlow.
Nice.
It was hilarious.
Dude,
I can't believe I went to actually Google that.
I don't even.
I'm googling it right now, actually.
Was it located, Jake? It's all right. We'll take care. We'll take the stream off after you're done answering this question. Was it on that magazine on the back pages of it?
I don't remember.
No,
it's actually.
That's funny. I just got that one, Rico. Fire.
InstaFlow.
Have you?
I googled it, not finding it.
The video was on a one of the now defunct video hosting websites. Ooh, I think it was called Vidler or something.
That sounds familiar.
Vidler even still around?
I don't know, but that definitely rung a bell.
I don't know why back in the day I had videos on Vidler, Vimeo, and YouTube everywhere.
Hey, Dev, can you do me a favor?
Yep.
Could you throw up the link for Vivid Creative Aquatics for Jake to check out that product.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me find it. Basically, what it is, it's like a flow accelerator, except as a spiral inside of it. He 3D prints the nozzle, and it kind of makes the water come out randomly, so it kind of circles around. So it randomizes instead of a straight flow.
No moving parts, though. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually switched my gyre off on my tank because I don't need it.
How big is your tank?
What is it,
Nick?
low?
My tank is 3.5 foot, so 42 inches.
And so it has
What is
enough
it, low
pressure to do it.
impact?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if I could redo my tank, I'd actually put another return jet because I'd still use the gyre occasionally to sweep everything up, but I might do one actually. I might make another one and not have a circulation pump in there at all and just use the two RFGs. Because seriously,
Nick,
everything is nice.
Is it like how they say it's what is it, low impact, high flow, or is it
No,
high flow?
it's a high volume.
High flow, low impact.
Low impact.
High volume, low impact. Yeah. So basically, you can ramp up your return pumps, and you're not going to strip the coral of its flesh. It randomizes.
Put another 5. Sounds like I'm gonna put in 5 more Jabo 12,000s on my 120.
So I just dropped the link to it in the chat, just the YouTube chat if you did want to check it out. Okay, so question. Quick question for those of you who are actually using those random flow generating nozzles. I know for a small tank, I can see being great, but if you have like a 5 or 6 foot tank, does it actually push it far enough down the tank, or is it just random for the first foot or two and then drop off?
No,
I
you
would
just
think it's,
go ahead, Rico.
Nick.
Well, I was just going to say that my tank is 3.5 foot, and it's a tall tank, so it's 3.5 foot by 2 foot by 26 tall. And yeah, one is going all the way to the other side of that.
Okay.
So in mine, if I put 2, I definitely wouldn't need the gyre. If I had a 4 or 5 footer, then I'd probably put 3 on there.
I'm surprised that you would get rid of the gyre, though. I mean, personally, I would just use them both because I figure more random flow to mix in the better. But
no, seriously, my corals a little bit when I switch the gyre off.
Huh. Good to know.
It's like Rico said, you know, watch the coral. Like, you think you need it, so you put it on, but watch the coral. And I took it off and whacked up my pump to like nearly the high setting because I've only got one drain, so it was overpowering the drain. But yeah, in future, I'd put another drain and another return on and run 2 big pumps. That'd do it.
Huh, I'm curious. Maybe I should try one of these days.
We can get one to you. We can get one to you, Dev.
Yeah?
Yeah, man.
Because I haven't tried it, but my personal thoughts would be awesome for a smaller tank. I just didn't think it would have enough juice for a larger tank.
No, seriously, like those things go up to 1 inch. So
yeah, dude.
Man.
You're good, Dev.
Huh, all right.
How about
maybe I'll try one.
How about an inch and a half?
We could probably make one, but I think the dynamics changed. You can't just scale things up and scale things down because of the dynamics of the pressure. So I know he's done the 1 inch, and it took a little bit more development, and he tried to miniaturize it as well to a 1/2 inch. But the flow dynamics, you have to be careful of. That's all.
So AL's asking, Nick, would you say the flow's enough for coral just using those?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. Tomorrow when I'm back in the office, I'll switch off my gyre and I'll film the flow just coming from the random flow generator. And you watch my hammers, you watch my torch, you watch I got a red gonny the other day from my friend, and that thing, you can watch it swaying around and fluttering, and yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. No, that's awesome. All right, I'm seriously curious to see if how it can do on 5.5, 6 feet of tank, if it can make it that far or not. I mean, I can always turn up my turn pump some more too.
Your return pump is going to obviously play a big part in that. If you got one of those pumps that you can ramp it up and force more. Yeah, I don't see why it's not. Yeah, I mean, honestly.
Because I have the Vectra M1 on my tank, and I'm only running at 50%. So, I mean, I definitely could bump it up if I needed to.
Right.
Could be interesting.
What I would say, Dev, is that with your tank, it's set up like a peninsula tank, right? Yep. Where you've got everything down at one end. So you've got to remember that it's one of those, if your tank hasn't been designed to run on just one of these, But if you designed your tank to be run on one or two of these, then that's a, do you know what I mean? That's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like your tank's been designed to run a normal return and a circulation pump.
Yep.
So it would work, but I think it'd be more a case of, you know, utilizing another one down the other end, or you know, because you've got a circulation pump. Where's your circulation pumps located? They're on.
Everything's on the return wall. I have
everything's on the return wall.
I have my return line, gyre, and 2 MP40s.
Yeah, so what you might need to do to make it work more effectively for yours is you might need to use another pump and two, you know, and crank them up, because you're trying to replace, you know, 2 circulation pumps and a return, right?
Well, to be honest, I don't think I'd replace anything. I'd probably just tack it on and add to more random flow. But I'm still curious to see what it could do on its own.
Do you see what I mean? If you were to do what I was going to do, which is replace the circulation pump, then in your tank you'd need to probably add another one and crank up the pumps to do that. Because it's not been designed to just run. Yeah, you know what I mean, one thing by itself. But
yeah, so
it'd still be effective. You'd still see it. You'd still see how effective it was.
Yeah, so John's saying he still runs his Vortex pumps, which makes sense, because I think more flow is better, right? As long as you're not blasting your corals, as long as you're not blasting it. You don't want to be blasting the flesh off. You don't want a super concentrated high stream of pressure washer. But if you have a nice broad, lots of flow all over the place, I think it's great. Hi, Clevie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's what these were designed for, really, was to prevent that direct flow from the return. That's what they're designed for.
Yeah.
But you know, when I got a chance to put it on mine, I've definitely been impressed. Now I've got more coral in there as well, because when it's an empty tank, it doesn't really matter. But now I've got a lot more coral in there. It's more, the flow is more important, and it's definitely I mean, I was running my gyre on 10 to 20% pulse, and then I switched it off, and I went, oh wow, I don't need it on.
Right.
Okay, so on that note, I took my 2 MP40s off to clean them, and I left them off for a week because the gyro pump had enough flow that my tank was fine. I put it back on, but same thing. Like, I don't need it all, but I still think it's beneficial to have the different types of flow mixed together to make it more random.
Did your corals tell you they weren't happy?
Makes me happy.
Exactly.
Half
you
of
heard that one right, Rico. I put it on because the corals didn't tell me they weren't happy, but I'm happy.
Actually, one of the big things is because my Vortex stuff's all on through battery backup. So they're kind of like my safety net in a way. If the power ever goes out, they'll still keep on running. That's a
what
good
about
chunk
the return pump, though? Can you put that on a battery backup as well, or no?
Once I find the battery booster, yes. I bought a battery
Right,
booster
okay.
to jump 12 volts to 36 volts. I just don't know where I put it.
Okay.
When I find it, it's going to be on battery backup, and that'll be good. But I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, because you got the Vortex return as well, right? Yeah. It's one of those things. Some people like to buy kit, and then I'm not saying this is you, Dev, but I have clients that are asking me for all of this kit, and I'm like, you don't need it, and they say, yeah, but I want it. You know, because the tank to them is more about buying. It's a toy. You know, they want all of the bells and whistles on the toy, even though the corals and the fish don't need them to have it. They still want them.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the point though where I don't need anything anymore. Anything I do is just bug around for fun, but. Like,
yeah, but that's why you got the ozone to play with something else, right?
And like the whole reason I did the shader reactor is because I wanted more space in the sun for frags. Like, there's nothing I need. It's just for fun or experimentation at this point. Yeah.
I think your next thing is going to be like a remote control moving arm for your lighting to make it go up and down and left and right. And...
I would like a robot to clean my glass one day.
Yeah, well, you can buy one of those. Have you seen
they're noisy.
Robo?
They're noisy,
like
them? Really noisy from what I heard. Okay, one quick thing I just want to throw this out since we're talking about like the basics and safeties and stuff. Duratic Reef. I had a heater fail in the tank on almost 90 degrees a few weeks ago before I caught it. Heater with external display. On that note, I always recommend for your tank, if you need a 300 watt heater, buy 2 150s. If one crashes and stays on, it's not enough to cook your tank. And if one dies, it's not enough to get your tank too cool. Like the other one can still limp along, you'll max it out, but it's going to keep it. So I'd always recommend getting 2 heaters at lower wattage rather than one big one, because it's kind of like a built-in safety net. Just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. I actually run 2 300-watt heaters, even though I only need 1.
Yeah, see, that's
just in case one fails.
I think I either have 2 150s or 2 200s. I can't remember, but same thing. Like I just went lower just to be safe, right? So always good to have a backup for everything. Even with your ATO, if it's a pump-fed one, throw a float on it, right? Then you got your second backup. Like I always like to have something redundant whenever possible, is because that's your safety net in a way, right? And that's something that could save your tank from crashing.
For
like
sure.
I had for instance, I had
Devin, that advice is a week too late, man. Thanks.
I'm sorry. Hey, I'm pretty sure I threw it in one of my previous videos. You got to go in the backlogs, man. Yeah, that's
I'm
unfortunate.
actually jealous of you guys. Like Rico's running is it the Tom Aqualifter?
Yeah.
We can't get those in the UK. And
really?
Yeah, because what's unique about that pump? It's got the inlet and the outlet, so you can use it to prime. And we don't have those in the UK at all. I'm actually working to see if we can get them over here, but yeah, they look really cool, those pumps.
Yeah, no, they work well. Before I got the fancy Apex automatic top off, that's all I used. I had a float switch that would turn on the Aqualifter, and then as a backup, I had just a float valve in there.
Wow, that's really cool.
And it worked well, and it was silent. It was great.
Yeah, there's a website, autotopoff.com, that'll sell you like float switches and stuff, and you can make a really cheap ATO for like $80 with some I mean, it's still float switches, but at least it's multiple redundancies.
But yeah, the other thing too, like 2 things you could do. You could take 2 float switches and wire them in series, so they both have to agree in order for it to work. There's one thing you could do to prevent a float switch failure. Or the second thing would be having that extra bobber in your tank to turn on and off. So that's one thing that, because I mean, I had a Tunzi. Everyone always says Tunzi is one of the better ones, and it would stick. It'd either not turn on or it'd stay on because the relay was going bad. Like I took it apart and replaced the relay, but this goes to show, like, you know, everything can fail, everything can have an issue. So having something for a double
is eventually going to fail. It's just when you never know. So people thinking that things don't fail. The best thing you can do outside of what Devin's saying too is don't wait, and you're going to have to wait a week to get something in. Take the extra money. I know you might not need it now, but if you're going to stay in this hobby a long time, have a backup. Return pump, have backup heaters, crucial elements to keep your tank running, and so you don't have to have downtime or something like that happen. It's a very smart thing to do as well, to be honest, because it's only a matter of time before something actually lets loose and it stops working.
Well, my backup stuff is the stuff I use to make water changes, because I use a pump. You have a heater to heat the water in winter, so if anything happens with the main heater, it's just throw on. Anything happens with my circulation pumps, it's the pump I use to mix salt water. That's the backup. I think return pump, I just got lucky when it failed last week. I just happened to have another one handy. But
Oral, I actually did look at mine after that. So there is an option if you go under the Vectra to turn on notifications. I don't know if you had that on or not, but I went and looked through my settings to see about that after you were saying that it didn't do it. So
yeah, well, I probably didn't, but I took it off the system. So it needs a power supply, which is $100. So I'm really trying to think of. I mean, the pump was $350, and I don't,
How old's the pump? Is it under warranty still, or?
No, it's a 1.5 years old.
Yeah, that's too bad. Okay.
Ecotech stuff. I've been using Ecotech. 6 years in the hobby. I've been using Ecotech stuff since day one, and it's always, whenever the stuff fails, it's almost always the power supply.
Yeah.
And between me and, let's say, the 4 or 5 close friends I have in the hobby that use Ecotech stuff, always the power supply. Always the power supply. On Vortec pumps, on the Vectra pumps, on even Radions, it's always the main equipment doesn't fail. I think I've seen a Radion fan fail, but it's almost always the power supply. So
do you have to use the stock power supply, or can you buy an alternative one?
I'm trying. I have a photo of the power supply because on Reef to Reef, someone posted a photo of the Vectra power supply. So I'm trying to go to, you know, eBay and other places and trying to find the exact volt, you know, wattage, everything. But it's just, it looks like it's just a standard power supply that they got made somewhere else.
So the meanwhile power supplies are really good, like really reliable, but they're not cheap, but they're very good. I know some of the LED companies and other equipment companies always I think you've got Rapid LED, Mike at Rapid LED over there, right? And he always like advertises the fact that he's using meanwhile drivers.
Yeah, they're good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna see, but whenever you're running Ecotech stuff close to 100%, close to its max, yeah, the power supply goes. I don't know.
Maybe that's why, because I've never had an issue, but I run most of my stuff around 50%. So
yeah,
it's
I had to
barely breaking sweat.
The reason I had another pump here was I was planning on upgrading the return pump anyway. That's why I had another pump handy. But to push the flow through the little refugium, the algae reactor, Chaeto reactor, and get, you know, 350 gallons per hour back to the display, I needed to run it at 100%. And then, you know, the Vectra, you know, it says 2,000 gallons per hour, but you have to use, it comes with 3/4 inch plumbing, and you have to use like 1.5 or 1.25 plumbing to get anything close. So I wasn't getting, you know, so I'm using a Reef Octopus now, and I'm running the Reef Octopus at 70%, no, 60%, and I'm getting 25-30% more flow than the so I don't know if the Reef Octopus is just, you know, truer to its name. I don't know, but I'm happy with the Reef Octopus.
Yeah. Do you have the flow meters, or how do you know how much flow you're getting from it?
I have the flow meters.
Okay. Is it worth adding those? I've been back and forth because I have an extra port on my auto top off, so I can plug one in, but I still don't really know an actual use for it yet. I was thinking like I could put on the emergency drain or something for like an alert. Or...
In your case, Devin, I would say yes, just because you like to tinker.
Exactly, it's another toy, right? That's why.
I'm sorry, Devin. But
all right, okay. So...
I would say, yeah,
that's
for
funny.
You.
So the better.
I did the bucket test, and I did the bucket test. I did. Someone put the calculator, and it was pretty darn close.
Oh, that's fair. You could time it, how long to fill a gallon or 5 gallons, whatever. Okay.
And you could put LEDs on them, so when it's flipping around, it
light
look
show
nice and stuff.
Really?
Right. Oh my.
No, but the one legit use. Okay, seriously, I don't care how much flow is going through my reactor. Like, sure, it'd be fun to know, but do I care? No, it doesn't matter. Like,
no, yeah, that's how I am. Like,
lots of flow or a little bit of flow. Like, oh, it's too much flow. Or if I had the GFO on, I only wanted a trickle. I only want very slow flow. So I've never really cared. But putting it, or even how much flow is going to my tank, I don't care. I have 2 MP40s and a gyri. I have tons of flow in the tank. How much is going through my sump? Like, I'm not worried about it. But the one thing I can think of, if you put on your emergency drain, you could use it to send you an alert if it ever went to the emergency standpipe. So that could be a legit useful thing. But
yeah, even though they don't recommend, you know, that you run it consistently on, you know, your on the return lines, but that's actually a good. I've heard people use it in that way, where because any water that comes down your return, so if it, you know, if it's pushing, that's actually a good use of it.
That's the most legitimate beneficial one I could think of. But
you'd have to do some modification to your plumbing though, Devin, because it comes in 1 inch, which I don't think the 1 inch is good enough to is the 1 inch can't measure down to that low flow rate that's going to go down your emergency. So you'll probably have to step your emergency down to a 1/2 inch just for the flow monitor. So if you're willing to do that, then yeah.
So it doesn't do very low flows?
Well, you know, it comes in like the one for the calcium reactor, like the little needle valve. I don't know what that is, 1/4 inch. Then the next one is 1/2 inch, and then 1 inch, and then 1.5. So, you know, what is your emergency drain size?
They're all 3 drains are 1 inch.
Yeah. So okay. So there's a 1 inch, but the 1 inch is not going to. So let's say you just have a trickle going down your emergency, and it's 25 gallons per hour. I don't think the 1 inch flow meter can measure. I think it only measures 75 gallons and above.
Okay. So the other option, I could put it on my open channel and just monitor it, because that will be a higher flow, and this I know if it goes over the normal, then that could be an alert too, right?
Yeah.
Because
yeah, it could be. I have an extra slot, so what I'm gonna do is get one of the extra optical sensors, so it'll alert me when my ATO is at like 25%.
Yep.
You know.
Oh, that's somewhat. Yeah, I got that too. That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get another ATO container so I can go potentially 2 weeks without filling an auto top off.
Nice. I'm jealous. I get about a week and a half. I'm going on vacation in a couple months. I'm actually thinking I might just pull the 35-gallon brute and hook that baby up as my container.
Yeah, with Triton and bigger ATO for both tanks, both the Nano, it's going to be 2 weeks before I have to, 2 weeks, twice a month that I have to pull out and make water. You know how happy I am about that?
So what you got? Oh, yeah, you got to pull yours out and set it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say you could just use my strategy and just get a really long hose and just go plug it into your top-off container.
Well, yeah, so my top-off containers now are going to have built-in float valves, so I can leave them overnight without, like just 2 days ago, I fell asleep while filling it and caused a flood in the apartment. I'm pretty sure yeah. So actually the container I got an eShops container for the Nano, and I'm having one built by Advanced Acrylics in California. It's gonna come with a float valve that when the container is full, you plug the ROD. I bought a 30-foot RODI cable, so I'll string it from the kitchen to the bedroom and the living room, and when the container is full, it'll shut. It'll stop the flow, and I'll be good. So I can fall asleep and leave stuff going overnight. So let me tell you something. That is saving my. I mean, it might sound like a little, but I can put it on when the kids have gone to bed. Get up in the morning. I get up before everyone and take it off. So, that's fine. So I don't have to do water changes or be filling ATO containers when the kids are running around. Because there's been a bunch of times where they kick it out, and then I don't know for 20 minutes that water's just spewing somewhere.
Yep.
Turn that shit off. I want to show you something.
Somebody's in trouble.
Narcosis is
narcosis.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
So
what did your wife say about the tank? You were saying to me that she was on about getting the big tank or something.
Oh well, she said as the Triton works, then we're gonna get a bigger tank. Not now, but she's like, one of the reasons for a bigger tank is because we'd have to be slushing and the cost of salt when doing water changes. So if this works, man,
I like how she thinks. It's like, I'm sorry, honey, we're gonna need an upgrade, so we don't have to do water changes.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
My wife is, she still gives me crap, but my wife is fully in the hobby. I mean, the Apex has been a lifesaver because now my wife isn't worried about, she isn't worried about like going there and turning things off, turning them on, because it's like it's like a button presser. She understands like this is the skimmer. Turn the skimmer off. The skimmer is full. She'll turn it off and say, "Oral, it was full, so I turned it off." So make sure you check it when you get home. So the kids are fully like, my son controls his tank. I gave him an Apex for his Nano, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, the auto top off." My wife doesn't like this new ATK because the alarm is not loud. Like she knew immediately when something was going on with the Tunzi. And so, but this alarm on the Neptune ATK it's not loud enough.
You'll have to get like a big red flashing light by your tank and then plug it into the Apex and turn it on.
But for the most part, man, I know people, poo-poo the Apex, but in my situation, I couldn't. It gets the family involved with taking care of the tank and love the tank because they don't have to go underneath and just. My wife has the app on the phone. My 9-year-old has the app on his iPad. So whenever something, he just hits feed mode, drop the food in. When it's time, he hits feed mode D because he knows he can change filter pads. It'll give him enough time. So it gets the family involved. Because it's not scary anymore.
Yeah. Well, even when you're away, like because I usually feed frozen food at night. If I'm out, not knowing I'll be home, I can pull up in the app, hit auto feeder on, then I just know it's going to drop food in the tank. So I'm like, oh, they're fine.
Yeah. So when when people are over, my wife now keeps an eye. She likes having that apex, like the pad, because she knows when we have people over, we need to watch the pH. So she'll even glance over and see that it's low. So she'll crack a window, or she'll so my wife is fully, believe me.
That's good.
She is fully in tune with the tank, and it's because of the apex. I gotta really say, because it's not scary. They know, they go on and see, oh, this is the skimmer, this is the feeder. I need to feed. So I'm not sure if oral fed today. So let me just give them an extra dose of pellets just to be sure.
Nice.
They see one of the gyres making a quick sound. She's like, oh, I turned off the gyre today because it was making a sound. So make sure you look at it when you get home. The dosing pump is making weird noises. She just turns it off and just waits for me. So that's the default. She turns it off, and if I'm away, then she'll say, she'll have to call me and I'll have to look at it, maybe, do FaceTime or something. But for the most part, she's in tune with what's going on with the tank.
Nice. No, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Honestly, on the whole pH thing, since it's like summertime, I'm just leaving a window open. It's been a nice little boost in pH. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Well, keeping my alkalinity at 9.5, 10 before Triton. Now that it's at 7, my pH is actually lower.
Yeah.
Because it's at 8 for Triton, 8.5 for Triton. My pH has actually been lower, so a bit lower.
So on Triton, there was a question in the chat a minute ago asking why Triton over the balling method.
Why try? I don't know what the balling method is.
I don't fully know either. Rico?
Yeah.
What do you got?
I think the balling method is just I think the difference with the Triton versus balling is the Triton has elements in it to encourage the growth of macroalgae. Probably Nick is better at this, but I think the balling is just 2-part with trace element. I don't think it has anything to encourage.
Okay, so that's all it is. Okay.
Are you using the Core 7 or the base element?
I'm using the full Triton, Core 7.
All right, so the Core 7 does not have the algae boosters. The base element has the algae boosters.
No, there's two types of Core 7. That's the difference. There's Core 7 is Core 7, but they have Triton method Core 7, or they have Reef supplements Core 7. The Reef supplements Core 7 doesn't have the algae supplementation, but the Triton method Core 7 does have the the algae supplementation.
Okay, so if balling method just means 2-part trace elements, basically.
Yeah, I think that's
okay. So I guess that's what I'm doing then. Okay, that's fair. Just clarifying.
So now my wife.
I was actually shocked that people didn't know what balling method is. Actually,
I assume that's what
I was sitting there like, am I really hearing this?
I assumed that's Rico, what it was, but I wasn't sure.
I came into the hobby when I think the balling method wasn't as popular, and I just went with Kalkwasser to 2-part and never did anything else. So I kind of know what the balling method is, but I was never interested in trying it. So I never.
Oral's method is the balling method. Isn't it like a nice Red Sea tank, got the Apex, the Ecotech?
I actually subscribe to Coral. I subscribe to Coral magazine, and there's ads for the balling method in Coral magazine all the time. Yeah, so
I'll look later actually.
No, it was just I couldn't even say anything. It was just like I'm waiting.
I saw your face, Rico.
I know.
Your face,
Rico, we're new, man. Balling probably was big.
No, I just figured that a lot of you guys because you're new in the hobby. You're reading reef forums. You heard people talk about it. Like, yeah, I guess I was wrong. I probably need to shoot myself in the toe because I always say, assumptions get people messed up. So I'm sorry. I apologize to y'all.
There you go, Rico. I did not know for sure.
That you guys knew.
I half assumed it was something like that, but I never knew 100%. So there you go.
But then you've got like balling, and then you got balling light.
The tank's fancy. It must be a baller. That's all I got.
Oh my god! I gotta go. I gotta get my.
I gotta be honest. Rico. Like the ads I see in Coral magazine, it's like
look.
It disrupts, other two-part methods disrupt the ionic balance, and then I'm reading it. I'm like, that sounds like horse crap. Like that sounds like you're using fancy words.
So,
and
the ad, those ads, I'm going to find one right now.
I have no idea. The ads to me, Rico, like people try to sell you a lot of crap in this hobby. That some of it. And to me, the balling method is, to me, just, I don't know. I've seen reefers I trust say they're using balling to know that it's not crap, but to me, the ads at the time. So I don't know if maybe the ads that I'm seeing were just, but when you use words like ionic, I remember when I was reading like old posts on Reef Central, I saw people selling like the Equal Aqualizer and a bunch of things that all talk about ionic balance. And to me, it just, when someone says ionic balance and he's using abstract words like that, to me, it just sounds like
marketing.
It's catchy. It's to make you want to know more
but
what you're talking about. And it's a word that's like luring you in. Obviously.
You do have to be a little bit careful though, because with the ionic balance, it's about, like you're talking about your magnesium and your calcium and how they bind and bond. Some of that is to do with ionic balance. So it's how the molecules create their bonds through ionic balance. So I understand what he's saying. Like some companies might use it as a tag term, but when you look into the chemistry of the relationships between the elements, it is an important thing. But I agree with you though. It's like with the whole seawater thing, saying, selling you salt as at natural seawater levels, and I do understand what you're saying with that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
most people don't catch that, and they're not going to catch that in this hobby.
Tropic Marine. Yeah. The original balling method is the most effective way to add calcium alkalinity to a tank. So it's just 2-part. That's exactly what it is. There you go.
It's really 3-part. It's really 3-part. I don't care what they say.
Yes, it is 3-part. There's magnesium.
It's 3-part.
You're correct. 100%.
I agree with Rico.
There.
And the funny thing
I'm sorry. I have to butt in on that one. I'm not just going to shut up that time.
I'm sorry. You're correct. I always, when I'm on like BRS someone's website, they always have a 2-part as a category, and it's tainted my mind. But
it's not.
It's all of the I blame the vendors. But yeah, there you go. So that's in Coral magazine.
So Dave, Triton is a little bit more concentrated. Another thing about Triton that I like, and I don't know if for me it's a pro, is that it comes in these bottles that I buy and I just put right on the tank. So when TMG came and picked up my old 2-part, like I got 2 shelves. Like I live in an apartment, so to us, space is a premium. So all the space I had where I used to mix and store my 2-part for BRS, I gave that stuff away. I got like 2. My wife was happy. She got like 2 shelves in our pantry back. So I always like. For me, I know Nick doesn't like when I say this, but I'm testing Triton. Nick is always like, "Why? It's gonna work. It's proven." But I'm new to it. So Nick,
no, it's not like I'm saying like. With me, like testing Triton to see if Triton works. We know it works, but it's more to do with, everybody's got their own ways of doing things and what fits the way they want to reef. So to me, it's more like seeing if Triton's a good fit for you.
What I would like to see? is it starts to get narrowed down to, you know, maybe like 3 different ways you can skin a cat versus so much of this and so much of that. The confusion in this hobby is because it's so many different ways to skin the cat versus 1 or 3, you know, a lower amount of number, you know, working with. But it's like, you know, you got your way, I got my way, this person got this way, this. And then when you bring all these people in together and you're talking about this, this, and that, a new person doesn't know which way to go at all. They're so confused and they're not getting it. And I really feel like that needs to be, like, when we do these reef talks and have this reef forum or something like that, we need to really get into, you know, well, why is O saying that, or why is Ick saying that, or Nick, or why is Rico or Devin, or, you know, and then say they all work. That it's just kind of what your system's gonna like and what you're seeing in your system, and explain, you know, you have option A, B, C, or D. You know, kind of start narrowing stuff down for people, because it's really confusing. Like, some of the stuff I hear different people talking, even for myself, is like, you know, it's so hard to be quiet. To be honest, well, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's true though. There is 10 different ways we can do the exact same thing. I mean, you could dose kelp, you can dose 2/3 part.
For me, with my situation right now, with where I live, my life with 2 young kids, Triton fits my life now. I might not be able to keep some really, you know, depending on how it works, I might not have a clean tank where I can keep some sensitive things, but with 2 young kids, you know, full-time job, doing a lot of side projects, just the living situation with how I have to do water changes and how it's involved, and the apartment. And I think Triton, you know, fits my lifestyle now. So that's why, you know, zeovit, I love zeovit, but it was so involved, and I might be doing more traveling. So I like the prospect of how Triton, is going to fit into my lifestyle.
So far it's passing your tests.
It is. I put it on the Nano too, and it's working. Nano looks good,
So rookie reefer, I got to pick with you. I said something about sulfate, magnesium. Okay, so if I want to say balling method, technically I could use the 4 major part, which is calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. And guess what? Potassium is really one that's never talked about. So potassium's never talked about at all, and it's really actually a major trace element. So, but I'm not gonna geek out on you, because that's not what Rico does. Rico just tries to explain it just in Rico's little world of reef keeping. But I just had to throw that out there just to feel smart.
We're gonna start a new trend with 5. We're gonna start a new trend with 5 part.
Just to feel smart and special today. No.
Hey, Frank.
Balling is a multi-part dosing method.
That's probably the best summary of it.
Yes.
So one other note on that. So I learned that I was dosing too much Red Sea coral colors after like a month of leaving it. And a lot of my corals, like some of my Rainbow Monty and stuff, were almost all like an orangey red rather than the multicolors. So I've turned it down. I went back down to 1 mil a day, and then I turned it so it only turns on every 2nd day, so every 3 days a week. Now I'm getting more colors out of some of my stuff. So I was overdosing. I had too much of one of the minerals, and it was taking over with that color. So that's kind of an interesting thing about overdosing or dosing too much of trace elements. Yep, that's kind of interesting.
It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing as well, Dev, because one of my local stores just ran ICP tests on a couple of their systems. One of them was the coral base, and what they were saying was that some of the corals, which were supposed to be blue, were brown. They were getting really good growth, really good polyp extension. The lighting's good, the water is clear. There's no indicators, you know. All the major parameters were fine. So they sent off an ICP. When the ICP came back, it showed overdosing of lanthanum chloride, and also iodine.
Yep.
What happened was that both the guys working in the store had been dosing iodine without realizing the other guy had done it, but there was no, they didn't test for that. So they're scratching their heads saying, why are we losing the blue colors? They tried playing with the flow. They thought about potassium and this and that. And that's one of the really useful things, I think, of running the ICP is that when you think, okay, I don't understand what's going on because I've done all my tests and everything looks fine, I don't understand it. Doing that test can throw up something that you might not have considered.
Well, one thing I'm actually
and they
debating,
found that really useful.
My ICP test shows that my iodine is dangerously low levels, and my potassium is like it's so low, it's off the chart that ICP uses to measure. So I had to go out and buy like the big Triton things of potassium and iodine to kind of dose. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I think even the zeovit system, one thing that's probably the one thing I screwed up with zeovit, because even the zeovit system recommends that you periodically dose potassium, but because the potassium test is so involved and so hard, I hated doing it.
Is that the one that takes like 10-15 minutes?
Yeah. I hated
where you got to drip it through that little coffee filter thing?
Yeah. I hated doing it, so I didn't do it enough. So, but the ICP test told me to say, hey, your potassium is like low, too low, and your iodine is too low. So,
were you doing water changes?
Periodically, yeah.
That's what do you mean then too low? Because potassium really doesn't it's not really utilized that fast.
I think
it takes time for that to really drop.
I don't know what's going on with. I don't know. So there's something with the zeovit system. There's something with the zeovit system, Rico, that I don't know if the rocks absorb potassium, but that is something that going into the zeovit system, I knew that because they say make sure you have a potassium test on hand, and that is something that's my fault. I don't know if it's because the rocks the zeolite rocks.
Maybe doing that because that shouldn't happen, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one thing with zeovit.
It's abundant. It's really abundant, and it does take time for that to be utilized and stuff like that. So for you to be like that, even though you did do water changes, is kind of a little mind-boggling to me that it would say that. Like I'm curious, when I send this ICP test out, let them come back with something crazy. I'm thinking they smoking something real good.
Well,
that's all I got to say.
So on one thing, I actually have on the mesh top on my tank, I have a tiny little like 8 inch, probably 1/4 inch, whatever, steel bar across that's painted and it's starting to rust a bit. So I'm gonna take it off, sand it, and recoat it all. But I'm questioning now: do I have heavy metals in my tank? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's another one because that's another one. The store, the same store, they did an ICP before. Again, they couldn't find why all the corals were closing up. And then what they found out was that, fair enough. They found one of the guys had put a Jubilee clip around one of the pumps. And that's what they discovered.
I could see that. But Nick, did you see the video from Tidal Gardens of my tank?
No, not yet. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, when you watch it, I really want to know. And actually, the guys that are actually in here that knows that I'm going to be doing this ICP test just for you.
Yeah.
What would your thoughts would be? What it would come back and say? I'm just curious.
Yeah, but I think what it is, Rico, don't see it as it's not like a criticism of any system. It's information. Right?
No, it's information.
Yeah,
but
it's information, and what like your major parameters and some of your trace elements will probably be where you expect them to be. But what it'll do, it'll break down on some things that, like barium, for example. Some things that you kind of, do you know what your barium levels are in your system? Like, who knows that?
Yeah.
Well, then
exactly.
when you find out I've got a depletion or an elevation in barium, and then you read into what that could do, like the benefits of having it where it should be and what causes that to happen, then it might be that you switch. I mean, the thing with you, Rico, is that you do things that some other hobbyists don't do. Like, look how much variety of food you feed. There's some hobbyists out there that feed the same pellets or the same flake day after day after day. And what they don't realize is that in those particular foods, there's certain trace levels of certain things that, because they're not feeding a varied diet, those things are building up and building up.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? So you're like me. You like variety, so that you're not doing the same thing repetitively. So
you know, we talked a little bit about it the last time. Parameter tested, you know, and it's like 32 parameters that they test.
Yeah.
But there's a ton more parameters that are not being tested. And the fact of what are those parameters doing if these parameters are low? What is it? Is there some kind of chemical imbalance? Is there something that's going on? So there's so much, but I get it. People just, I mean, this is obviously all that we have or all that they're going to be able to test for at this moment.
Yeah, it's an ICP.
You know,
what you got to remember is it's an ICP test. So it's like saying, oh, it's okay having this thermometer, but that's not going to tell me what my salinity is. Well, yeah, because it's a thermometer. It measures temperature. An ICP test can only measure things that can be measured with an ICP testing equipment. An ICP testing equipment can't measure certain things. Silicates, for example, ICP, depending on the type of silicates, whether it's soluble silicates or not, it has trouble measuring that because of the equipment, because of what it can do. But the ICP, using the ICP test, gives us a wider scope of testing those 32 elements that it can test. So you're right. There's other elements, there's other things that it's not going to tell you, but not because it's not good. It's just that those things can't be measured by that equipment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm not going to look at it as a negative thing, because obviously if something are off or low.
The nice thing is it tells you kind of tips to fix it.
It's
right?
information, right?
Yeah.
It's information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
More information, the better. So, I mean, it's a
no,
good thing.
The more information, the more money coming out your pocket. Because the problem is, people are going to want to chase those numbers. That's the only problem I personally have with it. And
maybe he'll come back and he'll say, your tank is awesome. You'll be like, oh, thank you.
I don't think that, to be honest.
Sometimes it's opposite though, Rico. Like the testing that my local store just did said that they were overdosing. So that's going to save them money because they're going to be dosing less.
Yeah.
So it's not, test it, oil level's going to be low, so buy our product and dose more. Sometimes it's the opposite. It's just what it is. It's saying to, look, this is what it is. You're dosing too much, or on these you're dosing too much, on these you're not quite enough.
Right.
But it's just giving you the information. And I tell you, the other thing I find as well, which is interesting, Rico, with the customers that I have that are doing ICP tests, and they're not all on Triton.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'd like to know. I'm kind of curious if I do have metals in my tank, just from that little bit of metal rusting beside it.
I mean, the thing is that not everybody is on Triton that does the ICP test, because the ICP test is there for anybody. It's, not if you're on Triton or whatever, for anybody to use. But what I found most interesting is that when people have done the ICP test and they've got a low or a high reading on one thing or another, what they're doing then is they're researching then. And they're learning more about those minor elements and those trace elements and where they are and what they're in. So they're actually, it's almost like, making them aware of these things that they didn't know they needed, to learn. So it's actually improving their knowledge of the reef keeping as well. And that's,
anybody,
I thought that's good,
Yeah. Anybody, let me see. Anybody know of, can y'all see that, of this company?
Coral?
Coral?
Yeah,
no, they're at Magna.
Yeah, they just sent me this. They're inviting me to their booth at Magna. They've been following my channel, I guess.
Oh, nice. What's the product, Rico?
It's an aquarium controller.
It's a controller.
Here, there you go.
Oh, nice.
Jake has a write-up on it. There you go. Drop it in the chat. There's reefbuilders.com. New aquarium controller, which is promising to deliver some real advances in the aquarium monitoring controlling space.
I do need one, so maybe I'll try it.
I was just gonna say that, Rico.
There you go. You don't need an Apex, you need an Coral.
Sponsored a controller.
Maybe they'll sponsor you, man. You never know.
Well, yeah. I think
here you go. Actually, here's a quote.
Just tell him you need a 15-foot tank to go with it, Rico.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. No, my wife just brought it to me, email, because, I'm bad with emails.
So they're claiming to do similar stuff to like an Apex or a ProFlex, but make it simpler.
Simpler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like the graph chart that they have for lighting. You're able to control lighting. Apex, a full-fledged controller to do pH, orb, salinity, digital temperature probe, the water level sensors is particularly interesting since it is continuously monitoring water flow and levels from a distance with 2 optical cameras that never come into contact with the water.
The one thing I will say about aquarium controllers is,
I love them. I ain't even gonna lie.
I like it.
Never happened to this hobby, and I will say it a million times.
But they can be difficult to program, because if it wasn't for me with a tech background,
but that's okay, because we have people like you and Devin. For us, illiterate computer rejects that don't know stuff. Myself, I'm talking about here.
I'm thinking about my wife as a casual Reef. She would have never bought an Apex because the programming would have just scared her off. She would want to have like a wizard that says, "Hey, what temperature do you want to keep your tank, and what do you want to do this, and what time do you want your lights to come on, and all this stuff." That's how simple she wants it. I want it to come on at 8. Turn off at 6. I think she would want a wizard. But some of the stuff with Apex where you have to, if
time is this
return
to this and on.
Well, the thing is, I'm for real. I was nervous about getting Apex, right? Back when whatever. But I was like, there's too many people that know, can figure it out and just get it. And I'm fine with it. And I work around it a little bit. Am I, writing programs and stuff like that? No, of course not. I think if I, had somebody over time and we really sat down and went over and over and over and over until it, kind of what I do with these live streams, and we talk about the same thing over and over and over sometimes, and repeat, and finally people get it. But it's the same way with me. Devin can sit up here and talk computer talk or programming all day long. Am I going to get it? Am I going to understand everything that he's saying? No. But if he's doing it over and over and showing, and, we got pictures and this and that, of course I'm going to get it eventually. Am I going to be, good at it? No. But maybe 20 years down the road, I'll be a pro at it. Well, that's how reefing. Think about it in reefing.
Yeah.
So
for real,
the eCoral, like that controller, their whole claim to fame is basically drag and drop to program it. So it's supposed to be super easy.
That sounds nice.
That
Exactly.
sounds great.
Straight up your alley, Rico.
Great.
Yep.
And I need it for, obviously this new beautiful frag tank here.
There you go.
And complimentaries of Dave. Nano tank. I have a Cat 5, 100 foot of it.
Nice. Excellent.
And I used the proper word because I didn't even know. I would have just said telephone wire. See, I learned. See,
very good. Good work, Rico.
But yeah, that sounds, nice. If it's a drag and drop, come on.
With the Apex, it is a little more tricky at first until you learn how to program it. But I think I've given 3 or 4 people access to mine just so they can copy how I do stuff too.
Yeah.
But drag and drop does sound pretty nice too.
I just gave people access. However, I don't even remember how to do it, and they just go in and whatever, or I bring it up on the screen and they do it, whatever.
In fact,
tell me more.
No, my stuff. You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm gonna have to get off. The mic is waiting on me, guys. So
no problem.
Food is here. But it's nice chatting with you guys. And if you, Nick, go over there, Tidal Gardens, go look at my tank.
Definitely will, Rico.
It's actually really nice. It's like high def. You've never seen Rico's tank like that before.
No, and then I really want to hear.
It's pretty.
Your what you really think of me. All right, guys, y'all take it easy, man.
Nice.
Take care, Rico.
All right, bye. Bye, Nick.
Right.
Bye, Rico.
See you later,
bye,
Rico.
everybody in the chat.
Bye, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey, I actually forgot. One of the new things, I was just saying I wish Apex was easier, but you know what? One of the new features that Apex released recently is the fact that they have these tasks featured. I didn't use it, but I just remembered that actually exactly what I just said. You come in and it says, hey, what temperature do you want to keep your tank? Do you want to keep it between 77 and 79? So for those of you now who are buying Apexes now, I think there is a feature called tasks.
The new firmware update has a bunch of that stuff built in.
Yeah.
I just, Dev, the
article,
the Reef Builders article, I was just reading through that while you guys were chatting, and I noticed Terrence from Apex at the bottom in the comments was saying, oh, Jake didn't say this, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that. Yeah, he's complaining at the bottom, but he mentioned the tasks thing as well. So, that's a pretty cool... I mean, I must be honest, in the UK, we do feel a little bit ripped off, and I had a customer, phone me up and was complaining at me because I'm an Apex distributor. And he was saying, how come in the UK we still have the old energy bar, but the new head unit?
Oh, really?
And you guys have got the new energy bar, the orange one with the
it's because you guys run everything at double the voltage.
Exactly, and that's why I said to him, I said, because do you realize how long we had to wait to even get the Apex over here? And we don't get the junior version over here. We just get the main big unit, and that's it. You can't have any choice.
The junior is actually pretty cool because it's it's just the energy bar, and everything is in the head unit. There's no separate anything.
Tiny.
I have one running on my son's tank, and it's just when I first got the box, I called him up and say, "Hey, where's the head unit?" And he said, "No, just plug the stuff into the energy bar, and everything, like the probe and everything, like the brain is actually inside the energy bar."
That's it. Well, we can't even get that product over here. We can only get the full Apex unit, and the new one is the new head unit and the old energy bar.
And you get an energy bar 6, right? Not an 8.
Yeah, we got the energy bar 6. That's it. And if you want more than 6, you have to buy another one.
Huh. That's limiting.
And those things are like £180.
I have 2 energy bar 8s. I plan for the future.
And they're almost all used.
I know. When I bought it, I thought I'll never need it. I was going to send it. I only have 4 ports left.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I have 2. But the funny thing is, I even split so much stuff. I have all 4 of my XR15s going to one plug. I bought splitter cables, and both my MP40s go to one plug. And I still somehow max that thing out. I have too much stuff in my tank.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Some days I think I should tone it back down, but I mean, you got a pump for bubbling, a pump for lights, pump for MP40s, one for CP40s, Chaeto reactors, another light.
Yeah, you don't like buying stuff, do you, Dev?
No.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Hey, I know Rookie, someone was saying Triton, but I'm just going to say one thing about Triton, and no more Triton for the day. But you brought up a good point, Nick, where I think sometimes people were marrying the Triton method with the Triton test. And while the Triton test, the ICP test, can be a good component of you doing the Triton method, but they're separate things. I think people were kind of marrying when they were thinking about it. Oh, I don't want to pay $50 for a test. And I sort of had, when you were telling that to Rico, it kind of hit a light bulb and said, oh, I did it because, I was coming from zeovit to Triton, and I needed to know a baseline of where my tank is.
Yeah.
But but it's not necessary. I would say you could do one or two a year, but it's not absolutely necessary. They're really separate things. And like you say, if you're using a separate system and you want to do an ICP test, you can.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of those, like, even I don't want to like sound pompous when I said that, but people like myself that have been doing this 20, 30 years, sometimes there's something that everything should be fine, but it's not. And then you think, well, what is that? Now, in the past, we just didn't know. But now, I'm not saying everything will be discovered by the ICP test, but it gives us one more step to find out. When we've done the regular tests and we're checking everything else, and you think, well, everything I'm doing is right. Everything my regular test telling me is okay, but I know there's still something not right. So I'm going to move to the next step, which is the ICP test, and see if that flags up anything. And that for me is fantastic.
Well, here's the other thing. Like, my tank is doing awesome right now, but I'm like, I'm still curious. I mean, if it's cheaper, I probably would have did it by now, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. That's why people, when they looked at the Triton method, they said, wow, you have to pay this for your water test, and you have to do do you do that every month? Because they didn't realize that, like I'm just about to, now I've got all the corals and a lot of corals in there, I'm just about to implement Triton onto my system in the office. So what I'll do first is everything should be stable, everything should be how it is. So I'm going to do an ICP just to see, like you said, a baseline to where I am, even before I start dosing, just to make sure my system is like Triton ready, because there might be something that I can address now before I start dosing the Triton. Yeah. If you see what I mean, to make sure everything is on a good baseline, an even playing field, so that when I start dosing Triton, the system is ready for it, So I'm going to do that myself. And then maybe 2 months or so down the line, I'll do another one just to check everything again is going as I expect it to be. And that's despite doing the other major tests that will tell me, everything, or the major elements and things is okay. I just want to do another one maybe 2 months down the line, because then if there's something that I'm not aware of, I'm going to pick that up early rather than later. But then once I've discovered that, if there is anything, or hopefully everything is okay, then it's like, oh, okay, I can just carry on as I am then, and it should be fine. And then it might be another test like maybe 6, 8 months down the line. But I would rather spend that like $50 on those tests than to lose a coral.
So I'm just looking online.
I'd rather do that than lose a coral,
$65 for the test, and then $10 to ship it. So it's about $75 for me to do it.
No, why are you paying $10 to ship it?
That's what I just dropped says.
What? No, Devin, you just ship it. Oh, here, I just drop it in regular mail for $1 and ship it to California.
Well, I probably have to ship it to California. I just read a website and it says, after collecting your water sample, simply mailed to main lab for fastest analysis, kind of post errors, approximately $11.
Okay. You probably have, you probably have to ship it.
It's a whole invisible line thing.
I see.
Hey, Dev, if you want, I'll sponsor you an ICP.
Yeah?
Not a problem.
Nice.
If you want me to, I'll sponsor you an ICP, not a problem.
That'd be cool. I'd be stoked.
See what it's like.
I would be interested.
But yeah, it's so useful a thing, and it's like, I think it's like with Rico, and I see this sometimes with some of the experienced hobbyists. It's almost like there's two sides to it. One is going to criticize their system, or it's going to tell them to spend more money.
Well,
but it's not.
No, it's telling you what is happening with your tank. I think it's a great tool, right? Because you're going to be like, okay, this is perfect. You have way too much of this. I'm like, okay, I'm overdosing this. Or, oh, I should be dosing more of this. Like, it's stuff that isn't easy to test for on your own. That's going to give you more insightful information. So
you know what the interesting thing that my ICT test told me that, apparently we test for, there's 2 types of phosphates. Nick, correct me if I'm going down, but my ICP test told me that there's 2 types of phosphates. There's the organic and the inorganic, and we usually test for PO4. So my thing told me that the phosphate, the PO4 is low. It's 0.1 or 0.0 something, but there's another type of phosphate in your tank that is way out of whack.
Yeah,
and you can't use GFO to get it out. You need to use Phosban or some other non-iron based thing to get it out. Or you can use detox. So that was interesting. From my Triton test. So it says, your PO4 because my HANA checker told me that PO4 is fine, but there's this other phosphate that people don't usually check for that is in your system they recommend, under 6. Mine was at 47, so it was way off.
It's a good chunk.
So and like I said, my iodine and potassium were low, but I kind of had an idea about potassium because, like I said, the zeovit systems are almost always deficient in potassium, and that's something you have to dose. And I just was lazy with that. That's my fault. I can't blame zeovit for that because the test was a pain. There's so many times I started doing the test and life came up and I just forgot about the test. I'm like, oh shucks, I'm not doing this again.
And you got to wait exactly 10 minutes before this step. And I buggered up a few times.
I'm not doing it again. So I just whatever. Even the phosphate test, like there's many times you have to press the button and wait 3 minutes for the load. There's many times I started doing something else with my kids and forgot about it, and the HANA checker shut off, and I'm like, so.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's interesting what you said there as well, because you're basically saying that when the ICP test came in and you saw those deficiencies, it married up with almost what you were expecting to see because of what you were doing. So it's not like, my phosphate shouldn't be low. This is rubbish, this test. It was like, I can see why that is because I know myself, I've done this. So it's not lying. It's like you saying, that's fair enough.
It was spot on. Like it detected a metal, and it says it detected high levels of a metal, and it says if you're running zeovit or ran zeovit in the near, and used to run zeovit, this is caused by those zeovit rocks. So it's not something to worry about. Over time, it'll settle out and leave your system. So the recommendations were spot on. Like there were couple elements that were elevated, and it said, it's because basically you used to run zeovit. So that's why. Like when you go into the recommendation part, it said that this is people usually if they have like something it gave a couple recommendation, but for me the one was if you have zeolite rocks, that's why.
See, the other interesting thing for me as well, say you had somebody who like Sanjay or Mike Paletta come to your house and he looked at your tank and you said to him, oh, what do you think? And he said, everything looks really good, but when did you last dose a bit of potassium or iodine? And you said, oh yeah, and he said, because I can tell. And he looked at your corals and he said, I can tell because you can see in the color, or you can see in the extension, or you see the way it's growing, or you can see this and see that. I can tell that you might have a little bit of deficiency. You'd think, wow, this guy is good, right? And you'd go like, oh, Mike Paletta, he told me this, so I did what he said, and my corals are looking better. And that's why I find a bit strange as well, because if it's somebody that we respect as knowledgeable, giving us some advice, we would soak that advice up and follow the advice. But with the ICP, for some reason, some people have taken it as a bit of a, everything, I know everything is all right, and this is like.
To be honest, though, I trust that more than I trust someone's random comment, because that's strictly lab testing data. I mean, how can you argue it's raw factual numbers?
I would trust it more than even my own test kits because
we have a $10 hobby kit versus a $40,000 machine.
Yeah, because my hobby test kit, depending on I've done like 4 or 5 alkalinity tests in a row, and they all deviate a little bit because depending on
how much water you put in.
If you have a fingerprint smudge, all these little things on the HANA checker. If you have a fingerprint smudge, if like a little drop of something came in it, if your reagent is bad, because I've had it where maybe I left the reagent open for an hour or so, and then it started to get, so, you know, all these different things. And more so, you know, it's stability. So if I'm doing Triton and I'm stable, So yeah, we don't have to. I know people. Some people in the chat earlier were saying we're on Triton, but like I said earlier, I think for now, Triton fits my lifestyle. I'm not gonna be upset if I can keep some sensitive acropora, but so I'm not, you know.
Why do you think that? Oh, why do you think that you can't keep those things?
No, I don't. No, I'm not saying I can't. But I said if the Triton method and what I'm trying, you know, because I don't have a big enough, I don't think I have a big enough refugium. So I'm just saying, if doing the Triton method now prevents me from maybe, you know, prevents me from, I wouldn't be upset. But right now, Triton fits my lifestyle.
Well, if you think about it, when you got your ICP test back and it gives you the green, the barometer with the green and the yellow and the red, right?
Yeah.
Where was everything else except for the potassium and the iodine? Was it all in the green?
Potassium was red. Iodine was red. The inorganic phosphate was high, and then it was the metal, one of the metals. But like I said, that was caused by
But that's going to sort itself out over time.
Yeah. So
if you brought if you brought those deficiencies into the green, and you lowered on the one so that they were all green, that's telling you pretty much that you're good to go.
Hey, so
those sensitive corals, you probably find that actually you can keep them because the ICP is telling you pretty much that you bang on.
My acros are all alive.
Nado is asking a question in the chat. How much do you use per month with the Core 7? So Nado, I based on my current tank consumption, like the 4 bottles of Core 7 cost $52 here in the US, and by current usage, which could go up a little, I estimate I'm going to use 3 of those bottles a year. So that's little under $160 a year. And I'm also thinking that I'm going to do 4 ICP tests a year at $200, $50 each. So that's $360. And then I've budgeted another $100 for, you know, let's say I have to buy like these supplements. But that's half of what zeovit cost me for the first year. Zeovit cost me $1,300 or $1,400 between the reactor, the proprietary reactor. You still needed 2-part. Oh, I didn't even count 2-part. Just the zeovit supplements and everything cost me like $1,300 or $1,400 for the year, and you still needed 2-part. You know, you still needed your own calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. While Triton, everything is included. So for me, you know, like Nick, it's less space for all the crap that I have, less space because think of all the BRS 2-part stuff I had to buy, and I gave all of that stuff away. So it was less space, less money, no water changes, because with zeovit you still had to do 10% water changes a week. So no water changes, less space, less money. I mean, I was sold. I was sold. Yeah, zeovit equals sucker. I mean, I'm about to listen. I've been trying to give away my zeovit stuff, and it's like nobody want it.
That's funny.
So I'm actually uploading a video now where, you know, like I'm gonna upload a video
contest.
Yeah, it's a quick contest for like a week or so. Just whoever comments on the video, I'll hold a random draw.
Nice.
Maybe next week on your live show, Dev.
Nice.
I'll just give away. It's some used zeovit stuff and some supplements, but
somebody will want it.
Yeah, and I'll ship it free in the continental US to whoever wants to try.
Sweet.
You know, you can get started on it includes zeovit, the bacteria, everything you need, and the trace element tablets. It includes everything you need. So I'll do it next week. I'll upload the video tonight and do it on the live stream next week. So
awesome. Sounds good.
So yeah, so anybody wants to try, but zeovit was great. It was just so involved.
Yeah.
I know Bug as well. Yeah, I know BRS made it sound really easy, but man, you drip this, you drip that, you drip this, you drip that. If you miss a day or so, if you didn't pump this, you know, the zeolite, if you went more than 2 days without pumping, stuff started to go bad. If you didn't dose your bacteria, you know, like, yeah, stuff started to go bad pretty fast. And then zeovit, the part about zeovit that didn't realize until I was coming off the zeovit is that the zeolite rocks actually absorb a fair amount of ammonia directly. So what happens is when you're coming off a zeovit, it's almost like your tank has lost some of its ability to process, you know, the nitrogen cycle. So for me, like a heavy stock tank, I ran into some, some issues coming off zeovit where ammonia. I had the Senai in the tank, and I didn't even remember to look at the Senai, Nick, and the Senai showed like a ammonia spike. No wonder, because you took the rocks off, it was absorbing ammonia. So that if you're not feeding that nitrogen bacteria, it dies over time, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am Dave. Hey, Dave. Sorry, but Dave, I got some other stuff for you. I'm answering Dave. Dave, I might have some other stuff for you. So, I went to the fish store. I'm changing topics now, guys. So I went to the fish store.
That's cool.
My wife fell in love with this long tentacle plate anemone.
Nice.
And she wants it. So now I have to clear some space. I have to get rid of some leathers and stuff. So I'm going to frag it up. But Dave, you're going to get a piece. I promise. So I'll frag some stuff for you, Dave. And I'll probably see you Saturday.
Nice.
So
you're lucky man,
yeah,
Dave.
Dave is close by. So, if anybody else was close by, I'll give him a frag too. If anybody's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm too far away.
Yeah.
I'm definitely too far away.
Not only are you in Canada, Deb, you're on the other side of Canada.
I know. It's a nice side though.
Yeah, hey, I'm not saying anything.
I know. I'm just bugging you.
It's just fun.
Deb brought down to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Actually, I want Sabella. Looks like he has some new frags, so I actually want Sabella to I want some frags. I don't know if Sabella is selling some frags or what, but Sabella has some nice frags. So Sabella, if you're listening, we're not too far. We're pretty much neighbors. Staten Island, Brooklyn. Yeah, Dave. My wife is not. So we have anemones, bubble tip anemones, and we cannot get our clowns to host them. I give one to Dave. Immediately, his clownfish goes straight in. And Dave shot a video. They've shot a video, and I'm watching the video. I'm like, hey, hon, that's our anemone. And she's like, then why is this clownfish gone in it? And she's like, I don't like that guy. So, Dave, you're banned, Dave. You're banned, Dave. So, she wanted to come downstairs yesterday. He stopped by to pick something up. We traded something the other day. He wanted to... She wanted to come down. I had to hold her back, Dave. I had to hold her back. So you're not a friend of the family right now, Dave. She doesn't. She wants to know why your clowns immediately went into the bubble tip anemone when we've been trying for years and it hasn't happened. I don't know what the answer is, but I've tried explaining that to her and she's not getting it.
I think Stian has the right question. Are they wild caught or are they tank bred?
I think we have regular Nemo clownfish. And the problem, but these are our very first ever fish we bought, saltwater fish. So they have some emotional attachment.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan's nano tanks.
All right, just because I don't feel like typing this. So Ricky, I dose calcium throughout the day and an alkalinity at night. And it's split up over 12 or so hours, so it doses 0.8 mil of alkalinity every 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, so, Dev, when are you going to go on to Triton?
When someone gives me some, because I have like a 5-gallon... Okay, I have a 5-gallon bucket of calcium chloride, and I have another 5-gallon bucket of sodium carbonate. So I literally am stocked for the next 3 or 4 years of 2-part dosing. I legitimately have bulk industrial 5-gallon bucket that's probably 80% full of each one. So it's hard to justify choice. I have a calcium reactor I took off, but I'm like, I'll put on eventually. I'm like, when I run out. I got so much stuff.
Michael said the same thing to me. He said, well, why would I use Triton when I can get this stuff for like so cheap? And then eventually went on to Triton, he went, yeah, I must admit it's good. This is the best stability I've ever had in the history of this tank.
Wait, he's on Triton?
Okay, wait.
He's on Triton?
He was on Triton.
Okay,
he had
I have a question, Nick.
Issues, right?
But why did he get off of Triton?
No, he was still on it, but he's sorting out his nitrate issues in a minute. Which obviously Triton doesn't.
So how is that more stable than just dosing 2-part? Or 3-part?
Ask
or 5-part?
Michael, I don't know.
No, but I'm just asking, like, what is the difference that makes it more better or more beneficial? Because like I could test my tank 24 hours later, and it's pretty darn close to the same.
No, it's valid in what you're saying, because like for me, my system's stable now. Normally, I would aim to create stability in a system that I set up within 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just by the procedures that I always follow in setting a tank up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that procedure encourages stability.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to, I wouldn't need to use Triton, and I could still have it like you. I could still have a stable system if I use the calcium reactor, if I use 2-part dosing, if I use balling, if I use balling light.
I think too,
I can
like with
those things, but I'm like, for me, what Triton offers me in benefits outweighs the costs and everything else, because like me, I'm busy every day, so I don't have to run water off and do water changes for myself. You know, I can run off water and do water changes for other people and earn money from doing that.
Yeah.
5 minutes I got spare is answering an email or a telephone call, not, you know, dosing this and dosing that. So I'm in the similar position to O, in that for me, by using Triton, I'm confident that that will look after my system. But like anybody else, I don't trust it, because I want to check that everything's okay so you don't get complacent.
Yeah.
But after setting up systems and using Triton from day one of it landing in the UK, which was what, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I've seen the benefits and what it accomplishes.
You'll have to one day you'll have to sell me on it.
So, I mean, I'm just answering a question. I used to dose 51 or 52 milliliters of BRS 2-part a day, and I'm dosing 8 mil of Triton a day. So that's the difference. I think it's 8 or 7 mil. 8 mil. I'm going to say 8 mil. I'm dosing the same as Paul from Reef Community Worldwide is. So, yeah.
Okay. So
I'm at 8.
In the chat on the balling 2, 3, 4, 5-part, he's asking about should always dose equal amounts. They say that. For me, though, I've never dosed 100% equal amounts because it's never worked out for me. So
it's never balanced.
Yeah, mine's never 100% balanced. If your things are out of whack, check your magnesium, because that can throw it off. But even right now, like I'm dosing 65 calcium and 62 alkalinity to keep them both stable. It's only a couple of mil, but it used to be a bigger spread. It's gotten a bit smaller now.
I've always dosed the same, and what'll happen is the calcium will rise, but after a while it'll stop. Like, you know, I wanted to keep it at 400, but then when I'm dosing 2-part, it looked like my tank used more alk. But then when it got to about 460, 9 alkalinity and 460 calcium, it just leveled off and never went higher. So I just kept dosing 2-part, and it stayed there. So it'll get to a point, you know, where it'll settle off where it's at 450 and it won't get any higher. What I also realized, I don't know if it was a test kit I was using, is you can test minor differences in alkalinity, especially with the HANA checker, pretty easy. Like from day to day, you can see if your tank is using half or 1 DKH. But a lot of times with the calcium test kits, you can't tell until it's gone down 20 or 40. So what I'm doing is what would happen when I was newer in the hobby, I would test every day and see calcium going down, alkalinity going down, and calcium not moving. And then a couple weeks later, all of a sudden, my test kit finally picked up that calcium dropped by 40, you know. that's because I wasn't dosing it. You understand? So I don't think our test kits in terms of calcium are sensitive enough to detect 10 ppm changes, maybe 20 ppm.
Well,
so
okay.
I just
So with just on that note, my last few readings from the Hana one, so I had like 403, 415, 403, 380, 450, 447, 446, 420, 420, 420, 426, 451. So it jumps around a bit, but that could also just be me putting an extra 0.1 of a mil of test water into it, right? That's the only thing. If you're not accurate, neither is your testing.
Yeah, manual testing is you have to kind of. I always like when we say don't chase numbers and all of that, and I agree with that because there's too much variance in things like you were saying, Dev, about do you test the same time during the day?
Yeah.
You know, do you test from the same area of the water? Did you just do something that, you know, can affect it? There's too many variances. So, but you just have to kind of go, am I in the right ballpark and is it stable?
Yeah, like
if the answer to both of those is yes, then you know, don't worry about it too much.
Like, for instance, looking at my alkalinity, right? 8.45, 8.45, 8.12, 8.5, then 7.78 one day. And I was ready to bump it up. But I'm like, I'm just going to give it 24 hours and see if it changes. I tested the next day, it's at 8.3 again. So that was probably me a testing error.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, 8.6, 8.3. Like, it's usually hovers pretty close to 8.5.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I say to people as well is that just because you read a number and it's different to the number you read before, just watch it, monitor it. If it carries on like nitrates, for example, if you get a blip in nitrates, it might be because you had a flipping goby just dig up a load of stuff from under the bottom of the rock.
Yep.
So, you know, sometimes it's a case of just sitting back and watching things and then seeing how it plays out. But obviously, if it carries on increasing, or something carries on depleting, then there is a point at which you need to intervene.
Yeah.
But like you said, in most cases, it's just a blip for whatever reason.
No, exactly. And I honestly blame a lot of those blips on just probably testing because, you know, you got 10 mil of water, and if you add 9.5 mil or 10.5 mil, it's going to throw off your results a bit, right?
Or if your fingerprint smudges the bottle, or,
two other things on that. Usually I'll put the Hana ones, I'll try and take the 10 mil and always put that in the front so it's always the same way. And I always try and wipe it off with like a cotton shirt or a paper towel or something between tests, just to make sure all the marks are off. Another good stuff to do. And then for cleaning the vials too, you got to clean those once in a while. Like give them a vinegar bath or whatever. Sorry, go ahead.
The other thing we were talking about with like magnesium, calcium and things like that as well. Like different people can use different brands or sources to get the magnesium and the calcium, and you gotta remember magnesium isn't just magnesium. You can get impure, contaminated, depending on the degree of purity, can also, you know, affect things as well.
Yep.
So it's like we say, salt isn't just salt, right? You know.
On that note, because when you hear people that go buy Epsom salt and stuff just from like the grocery store versus stuff you buy for the aquarium, do you think it's a big difference in the grade of the two?
It can be. I mean, I'll give you an example with linked to the Triton. In the early days, obviously, when Triton came along, a lot of people were doing like what you're saying earlier. They were using balling and balling lights. When Triton came into the industry and into the hobby, it was a big shakeup. You know, we had people like verbally abusing each other over, you know, whether to use Triton or not, or whether Triton worked, or whether it was better than balling or not as good as balling. And the one thing that always struck with me was when with Eshan, because, you know, I'm lucky that I've spoken to Eshan, and the main thing with Triton is the control over the quality of the ingredients that go into those bottles. Because Eshan is a chemist from a family of chemists, and they had all of this testing equipment, he was able to ensure the purity and the quality of the ingredients to the point where the companies he used for the elements would send him elements where he requested a particular grade, and he would contact that company and said, I asked for this grade, and the grade you sent me isn't the grade I wanted. And the company was saying, it is. And he was saying, no, it's not. they sent a technician with a dozen samples to watch him test using the laboratory equipment. And when they finished doing the testing, the technician turned around and said, "You've got better testing facilities than we have."
That's funny.
And the company then utilized Eshan to do some testing for them.
That's funny.
So for me, it's like, yeah, you can use magnesium, you can use calcium, but my question always is just be careful, because it's like what Eshan was saying as well, was that because the Triton negates the need for a water change, every time you do a water change, you're potentially, doing something bad to your system because of the, the potential contaminants and stuff in the salts and in those ingredients the salts are made on, like the buffers in there, magnesium buffer in there. They say, oh, it's got this amount of calcium, this amount of magnesium, but does it tell you the quality or the grading of the magnesium buffer they used in the salt? Or that you can buy this bucket for $50 when the competition is $65?
Yep. And the thing is, we're never going to know for sure, right? Because not many of us have lab tests to dig into it. So you're just taking a grain of salt and hoping it's good.
Exactly. And that's the thing with the Triton, is Eshan's put in his seal of approval saying to you that, we've tested the ingredients to this product to ensure that the quality is worthy of the Triton brand. I mean, I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I like the ATM brand in terms of the hot salt. ATM actually manufactured a whole batch of salt and then threw it away because they found that on one of the ingredients they could get another product of that ingredient that was of a higher grade than the one that they'd used. So they then felt that it wasn't right for them to sell off the previous batch and then use the new one. So they just threw it away.
Yeah.
Make sure that it was consistent quality from day one.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. And when, companies do that, you think, wow, that they really are trying to ensure that it's when they make the statement, it's the best on the market or the driest on the market, they've got that to back it up with.
Yep. No, it's kind of cool. But the thing is, though, like, most of us will never know. I mean, it could be, but how do we know? They'll say, oh, it's medical grade.
Yeah, I mean...
But I go to the store, it says USP, that's approved for human consumption. Is it the same thing as medical grade? Or lab grade? Like, I don't know.
I would pretty much say, though, with Eshan and with Stacy, if you challenged them on it, they would bring out the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because they're not those sort of guys that would just say things to, call your bluff. If you challenge them on it, they'll say, well, I can show you the paperwork if you like.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you a question about salt, Nick. So some of these salts that are talking about probiotic, I was at a you said, you meant what I thought. I was at a frag swap last, and there's a lady a scientist, like she does this for a living, and someone asked her about some of these probiotic salt, and she said right there with some of the reps in the room, she said that's BS. Yeah. She said it's that whole stuff with salt that has carbon dosing and all these probiotics. She said it's BS. She said I use instant ocean salt and it's fine. She said some of the stuff, there's better salts that's more pure, but she said for what I do, if I'm doing lab stuff, I use different salt. But she said for my tanks, I use instant ocean and it's fine. But so you think those probiotic salt stuff, you don't think it's worth it? You don't think it does anything?
I'll be honest, like, how can I put it? For me, a salt should be just a good base salt. Like, I don't want any elevated buffers in there. I don't want my salt to be buffered with magnesium or calcium or all these things. I want the salt
probiotics or carbon dosing stuff.
I don't like any of that. I just want a good, solid base salt, because what that does then, it allows me to control after that what goes in. So then I can put the buffers and the things like Triton, I can decide what I want to put in there to elevate those levels and to my own discretion as what I consider to be a good quality product or not. When everything is thrown in, like I was just saying to Dev, how do I know what quality or what those things are that you've put in? You're then selling me a package. Well, I don't want a package. I just want straight. And then I'll decide, you know, bespoke, custom, however you want to say it. I'll then tailor it to what, you know, my system needs after that. So for me, purity is the key. I mean, Triton have just launched a new salt where it comes in 4 parts, so that when you get the salt inside, there's packets of the stuff that goes in the salt, so that you can mix them in. And by doing it that way, I mean, you imagine they've got a mountain of this salt, and they add this, and they add this, and they add that, and then they mix it all together, and then they divide that mountain into 3,000 buckets. Well, how do you know that every bucket has got the right amount of right combination of stuff? So that's what Triton have done, is they've gone, okay, here's your salt, and then here's, you know, your this stuff, and here's that stuff that is measured, so that when you open the packet and pour it in and mix it, you know that salt contains exactly what it should contain. Yeah, because we've measured it for you separately.
That would make sense.
That for me,
somebody does
genius.
That actually.
Brilliant.
Somebody does that. There
Right.
actually is a brand. I don't remember who it was.
Well, Triton have just launched that salt, so you can get it from Triton as well now. But for me, I'm thinking that's great, because now I know that this bucket contains this many grams of this and this many grams of that.
So,
you know, because I'm putting it in from the packets. So great.
So on the note of salt, Nepa Reefer was asking, what brand of salt does everyone run? I use Reef Crystals just because it's readily available and one of the cheaper ones. I probably could use Instant Ocean as well. I use
Reef Crystals just because it's like it's cheap and readily available. Yeah. I used to use the HW Marine because it was supposed to be pure, but I didn't see any difference. It's just So I just use Reef Crystals, and next time I'm probably gonna buy. If the Triton salt comes out, then I'll buy that, because I'll only be doing periodic water changes. And even though the Triton salt might be expensive, it's good to know that it's gonna keep my elements. That by doing, with the Triton method, if I'm doing a water change, that's because I have a huge problem with something, and I'm probably gonna be doing a big water change. And if I have the Triton salt, it's then doing a 50% water change is gonna keep my elements where Triton recommends them. So I'll probably keep a Triton salt on hand, you know, if and when it becomes available. But for now, Reef Crystals.
Yeah, I particularly don't like Reef Crystals. I know a lot of people like them, but I don't like Reef Crystals.
Only because it's cheap and available. I mean, Instant Ocean. I find where I am, Reef Crystal actually goes on sale and is cheaper when it's on sale. I go to Long Island sometime, Aquarium Village, and I'll get Reef Crystals for like $30 for the 160-gallon box. So I do it only because I can get it cheaper than actually Instant Ocean most times.
Yeah. I have my own feelings about Reef Crystals, but
you might, but it's cheap. For me,
it's not that. It's the composition and stuff in it, but
it's all over the place. Whenever I've tested, first of all, I have so many problems with it. It clumps up too easy. it clumps. Sometimes I have to take a chisel and like ice pick and like dig that stuff out. The parameters, I don't know no matter if I roll it, punch it, do whatever with it, the parameter, like on one batch I'll get 15 alk with the same box, then the next one I'll get 6. So I don't know if the box shifted, you know, or
with
something.
Reef Crystals, because they have such high alkalinity and stuff, that's part of the reason I only do tiny water changes anyways, right? So I only do a 5-gallon, so it's not going to make any dent in my parameters. But someone else was in the comments was saying they use the Fritz stuff, which actually, if I could get it cheap, I probably would use because it's 8 to 9 DKH instead of the super high elevated ones like a lot of the other brands are.
Wait, $40 bucks?
Yeah, but again, what they used for that?
Where do you find Fritz for $40?
He probably lives in Texas where it's made. Probably just walks across the road and picks it up.
Yeah. He just takes his own bucket.
Yeah, Reef crystals leave like a brown film.
Yeah, that drives me nuts too.
It does. It does. Yeah. So I know.
I suppose I could just go back to not even go back to just using Snowshoe one day. Not that I've ever used it,
but with me now, I'm not too, like I said, I'm not too worried about salt now that I'm on Triton. I'll probably buy the expensive Triton salt when it comes out and then keep it because I know that, right now, the only reason for me to do large water changes is if something goes bad, like some kind of contaminant or something. And then like a 20% water change or a 5-10 gallon water change is not going to help me. I'll need to do 40-50 gallons. And by doing that, I'm not going to destroy my parameters by doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I
mean, I use the ATM hot salt simply because every time I've used it, touch wood so far, within the procedures I use to set up tanks, it works within those procedures and it mixes very clean, very quickly, which is a time saver. It always mixes to what it should mix, with the quantities and the salinity and everything else. And it gives me a good baseline. Every system I've set up on it gives me a good baseline. So then I know where I am. But, everything we put into that glass box, into that water, has an effect. And I want to use products that it does what it says it's going to do. So I know where I am, because if the bucket tells me one thing and when I add the salt, it does another thing, well, straight away I'm into problems. And I have to figure that out because the bucket's telling me it should be this. So that's what I, presume it's going to be. And that's how I continue. And then something's not right. And I found out, oh, it's the salt. It's not what it said it was going to be.
Yeah.
So straight away I'm on the back foot. So I always like to use products that do what I need them to do. And I just find so far, touch wood with the ATM hot salt, it does what I need it to do every time. So
yeah.
So when you find that reliability and that stability in the product, you're going to want to stick with that, right?
If it's easy for you to get and it works, that's perfect. For me, honestly, Reef Crystals is everywhere. Other brands are very spotty. Like there's Red Sea and stuff, but it's like $30-40 more a bucket.
Yeah,
to me,
Red Sea is a smaller bucket. It's a smaller bucket and it's more expensive.
Yeah, I mean the ATM hot salt over here is very expensive.
Yeah,
but I'd rather pay that than replace a dead coral or a dead fish. I'd rather not kill the coral, not kill the fish, and pay more money.
Or just don't do giant water changes and shock your system.
Well, we don't. I don't do water changes. So far, 5 weeks in, I think I've done 2 small water changes. Like my system's I don't even know what size the system is. Probably, I think it's 90 gallons, 98 gallons or something like that. And I've done a 2 25-liter water changes. And I'm in nearly in week 6 now.
Nice.
And that's just to curb the initial cycle and the initial, like adding the stock. So I diluted. And then again with the coral, just to give it a good baseline. Again, so that's my 2 water changes. But then next week I'll go on to Triton, and that'll be it. So I don't mind paying for that little bit of salt to set it up and 2 water changes.
No, that works.
Hey Devin, I don't. I might have to drop off soon, so just wanna.
I do too, pretty quick.
So logistic stuff with you. So next week, I was gonna upload the video, but since we're gonna give it the zeovit stuff on your live stream next week, I'll make some edits.
Nice.
So I'll make some edits and maybe some voiceover. I'm not going to do anything too fancy and upload it, try to get it up tonight. And then, you know, I guess at the beginning of next week's stream, you can mention it.
Okay.
So we give, you know, people on the stream like a few minutes. No, just give them a few minutes to go and comment if they're interested.
Okay.
And then in the middle of the stream, you can use like a random generator or me and just pick someone and I'll ship it out to them. So we'll just do it nice and easy.
No, that sounds great.
All right.
Thanks for giving the stream some extra love.
All right. No problem. Hey, no problem, man. I'm just my wife, because I have the stuff packed up in the Vertex box, and my wife is like, "When are you getting rid of the zeovit stuff?"
So
like,
you're gonna make your wife happy by shipping it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good though. Okay, no, that's awesome. Sounds like a good plan.
Right. Yep. All right.
I am gonna cut her off, I think, though, because I'm supposed to go give someone driving lessons and shortly, and I could go pick up my lady and give her a ride. So.
All right. Let me answer this one last question
Yep.
from Stian and Dressen. How big of a fuge do you need to use the Triton fuge method? They say what, 20%, but me personally, I don't have anywhere close to that. I'm using a macroalgae reactor. I have a 75-gallon display, and I have a small macroalgae reactor that holds probably a gallon, and then I have a 2.5-gallon fuge. But I have really good, like the macroalgae reactor is real, you know, like I've used, like Devin has one, so he knows they work in terms of the main filtration on a tank.
And yours is the balling method Cadillac version.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule, but you can, if you have good enough lights, you can probably get away with a smaller, you know, fuge, like a Chaeto reactor. Good Chaeto reactor with the proper lights work well. So, you know,
I tell you what, I'd be interested in seeing if we can figure out, like, this size reactor growing Cheeto, like, you know, using that method, what that ratio is to a size of a traditional refugium. You see what I'm saying?
You know what?
Like,
you know what I'm
would
gonna
it equate to in terms of refugium size of a normal refugium? That'd be interesting.
I sent an email to bulk resupply and tell them, say, hey, you know, you guys have been doing these refugium tests. How about testing one of the Chaeto reactors that you have? See how they perform. But you know what I'm going to do, Nick? I am going to measure the exact volume of water I have between my small refugium and my Chaeto reactor. And, you know, because I'm pretty sure the reactor holds less than a gallon, like half a gallon. And the refugium is, the tank itself holds 2 gallons, but there's like inches of Miracle Mud and Chaeto in it. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't hold anywhere close to 2 gallons. So I probably have at most 2.5 gallons of refugium space, which is a lot less than the 20%. And it's holding steady. Like, my tank doesn't have any algae at all. No nuisance algae. You know, nitrate is undetectable. You know, my Chaeto grows like crazy. Even on my nano tank doesn't have any filtration except for some floss and a Fossman reactor with Chaeto with some lights wrapped around it. That's it. Everything undetectable on that tank. So I'm going to measure it.
That uptake would be interesting. Like, one reactor is equal to, you know, a 30-gallon regular refugium, for example. You know, in terms of uptake amounts, that would be interesting.
Yeah, but Devin's video was good, and you know, one of the things when I first put a Chaeto reactor on my tank, I didn't test like the phosphates over the course of a few days. So Devin, your video that you did a couple months ago, where you actually tested the phosphates over a week, that was actually pretty good. I know you say you gotta go, and I gotta and I gotta run too. But yeah, this was really good conversation. I really appreciate it.
No, it was a great one today.
Good stream, Dev.
Thank you. Thanks everybody again for hopping on and contributing and being part of it. So if you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button. Otherwise, see you guys for next week's stream.
All right, I'll probably be in the chat for another 5 minutes, but I gotta stop. I gotta be on a phone call. So if anybody has any questions, you know, in chat, I'll hang around the chat for another 5 to 10 minutes or so. Okay. But I can't speak anymore.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'm gonna stop the stream. Yeah, the chat works for a few minutes. So all right, have a good night, guys. Thanks for jumping on.
All right.
Cheers, guys. Cheers.